Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now. Background.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? folks. Today is Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. A bombshell decision in New York City. Federal trial of Diddy Combs, acquitted on 3 of the charges and found guilty on 2 lesser charges. Also, the judge just denied him bail. We'll talk to legal analyst Candace Kelly, journalist Jasmine Simpkins, both who've been covering the trial for the duration. House Republicans are desperately trying to corral their members to pass the so-called big, beautiful bill of Donald Trump. The opponents call it the big, ugly, disastrous bill. They've been holding the vote open for 3 hours. In less than an hour, the Congressional Black Caucus will be holding an emergency rally on the outside of the U.S. Capitol. We'll be live from there as well. Folks, during the nearly 12-hour House Rules Committee hearing last night, which we carry on the show, Florida Congressman Maxwell Frost, boy, he hit a nerve with the Republicans. We'll show you what went down. Lots to talk about. Folks, it's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, today the New York City federal trial, Diddy Combs. He was found guilty on 2 lesser charges of the Mann Act, transportation to engage in prostitution, of Cassandra Ventura. That was count 3. Also on count 5, engaged in prostitution with former girlfriend Jane. That was the pseudonym in which she testified in court. But the more serious charges, count 1, racketeering conspiracy, not guilty. Count 3, first of all, that was count 1. Count 4, that dealt with sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion of former girlfriend Jane. Again, not guilty on that particular charge. Again, 5 total charges. He was found not guilty on 3 of those. The most important one was the RICO one. That was count 1. Again, guilty. First of all, you take count 2, not guilty. That dealt with sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion of Cassandra Ventura. Again, just 2 of those charges. Now, Diddy's lawyer wanted him to be released. They wanted to work out some kind of arrangement. After the verdicts were read, he turned to his family and said, "I'm coming home." Well, no, he's not. The judge ruled he is not going to be released. His sentencing is set for October 3rd. Candace Kelly, legal analyst, was following the trial, was in the courtroom. Jasmine Simpkins, the journalist, was also in the courtroom. They both join us right now. Candace, walk us through what happened today. This jury they reached a decision on 4 of the 5 yesterday. They were deadlocked on 1, came back this morning. Didn't take them long to come to the conclusion. Let's knock out this count 1. And then it was around 10 a.m. we had the decision.
Yeah, Roland, listen, they were in there for about an hour. And that's what happens when you go home and you sleep on something. And I think that was the goal. Maybe they went home, said, everybody sleep on it. Let's come back. Let's reconvene. Let's see where we stand. And they stood on this final verdict, which was, as you said, no sex trafficking, no RICO, but the 2 counts of prostitution stuck. So, and this is what happens when you get 12 people into a room from different backgrounds, try to get a decision made. It turned out this way a little earlier than I think a lot of us would have ever imagined, especially since they went home last night. But that verdict is out. And certainly this is something that the defense sees as a win. We haven't gone to sentencing yet. And that's when we will really know, depending upon how much jail time he gets, Roland.
Give us a sense of demeanor. We understand that prior to the jury coming back with the verdict today, Sean Combs asked the U.S. Marshals if he could pray with his family. They allowed that to happen. So walk us through just paint the picture for us, because no cameras were allowed in this federal courtroom.
So listen, there have been a couple of times this week where there have been prayers, circle prayers. He gets to spend quite a bit of time with his family inside the courtroom when everything is wrapped up. But today was really something when that verdict came, from what I understand, because I was outside and sometimes in the overflow room. When that came, he got down on his knees and he prayed, as did not guilties came. He was pumping that fist in the air until the guilties came. And then he was really had a just sunken shoulders and was very surprised about this. But he believed that this was a win. He kissed Tinny Garagos on her cheek. Everybody came around and was rallying around him and saying, "We won. Dream team, we're a dream team." So there was a lot of excitement in the air when Janice Combs came out. When I was standing outside, people clapped, people were cheering, people were, as you probably have heard, had body oil and baby oil that they were spraying in the air. There were, more Free Puffy T-shirts. People were dressed to the 9s and the 10s, and this was a big deal. Sean Combs's music was being played, and for those people who were there, whether they were bloggers or whether they were reporters and just caught up in the scene, it was quite a scene to be caught up in for a very long time. Now, they all thought that, of course, hey, if he was not going to have to stay in jail, that he would walk out. I don't know why people were waiting for this shot. That's not how it works. He'd still have to go check out of the detention center. But the bottom line, as you say, is that he didn't get bail anyway. So all he's going to do is going to be waiting until October 3rd, when the sentencing will be happening.
Jasmine, we saw that artistic rendering, if we could pull it up again, of Diddy on his knees, pounding the chair. Take us through that from your vantage point, what you saw. Describe for us what it was like, the jury, the prosecutors, the judge, Diddy, his family, witnesses.
My time in the courtroom, and obviously also in the overflow room, we've gotten a chance to see his demeanor, be up and down. Some days he looks a little lethargic, like he was definitely got a little trial fatigue, as I've been calling it. Other days he's a little bit more jovial, laughing, talking to his family. It wasn't shocking, though, especially hearing some of his family members, members of his PR team, talk about how he's been very much reading his Bible, reading books about manifestation. So for him to get down on his knees, we know he's been a man, talked about his faith over the years. So that wasn't shocking. And it also isn't shocking to see defendants have a reaction, right, like this when a verdict is called, be it guilty or not, in the courtroom. So I don't think anyone was shocked. His family obviously was still very excited and happy and hoping that the judge would grant him bail, but that did not happen today. But I think he still feels like this is a win. His team feels like this is a win, and they're hoping for the least amount of time when sentencing is handed over on October 3rd.
This, of course, was up and down. I've seen a number of legal analysts rip this prosecution team and simply say, Candace, that their evidence was absolutely weak when it came to the RICO charge.
Well, listen, the RICO charge is something that if you're going to be sitting in a jury, you are going to have to really become like a mini law student. There were 8 underlying charges that they had to understand, of which they had to get 2 over a period of 10 years in order to get to the RICO. I think what's very, very interesting is that there were 2 predicate charges that were reached. That was the sex trafficking. Not sex trafficking, the prostitution, right? We have those 2. I do not think that they really believed in this idea of RICO. There's a real relatability issue and people thinking that this is an overcharge. And why are we going to step into someone's bedroom and decide somebody's private relationship, as they said in the closing arguments, that this was just a modern day love story. And on the prosecution side, yes, many people have said that this was an overcharge. Why RICO? You are telling me that this particular enterprise, as you called it, only existed for the purposes of Sean Combs to carry out these particular acts? Well, when you look at his business, that was at one point worth $1 billion, that's really, really difficult for a lot of people to try to believe and take in. So I think that there were a couple of things that really spoke loudly. And again, one that was the RICO and the relatability. The other thing is you just had the digital footprint. You had so many texts that made it really hard to discern Was this just two lovers that were, that's how they ran their relationship? They were always mad at each other and then making up and then mad at each other and then becoming one, as the defense said, that they became one in all of their decisions. Were they just this couple that's how they, lived out their journey as a couple? So there are a lot of things for the jury to consider. And at the end of the day, they just did not believe the witnesses because had they believed them, they definitely would have gotten the RICO. They did not.
Jasmine, first of all, the scene outside, flat out circus.
It's been that way, though, I would say. I mean, definitely there were days that there was less hubbub outside of the courthouse, but this was par for the course. Listen, from the moment the indictment was handed down, words like freak off, 900 bottles of baby oil, it was very sensational, right? And so I wouldn't have expected less from what we saw over these 7 to 10 weeks. And to see fans outside chanting, he still has a lot of people who believe he should be free. There's a lot of people who believe he should be incarcerated. But to see the fans outside, to hear that people are playing music, the Frico Not Rico t-shirts, the baby oil, to me, it falls in line with the sensationalism that we've seen in this trial since the very beginning.
Attorneys Matt Manning, civil rights attorney out of Corpus Christi, Texas. Also, A. Scott Bolden, attorney out of Washington, D.C. Scott, I want to go to you first. The point that Candace there made, look, they had to make the connection, and then when they had the testimony, those text messages of both women talking about these freak-offs or these sexual escapades, it made their case real difficult to say it was coercion.
Well, the witnesses also had real credibility issues. I mean, some of the witnesses had been abused and went back for more. They voluntarily played in these freak-offs, and so they lacked credibility. And remember, these were all adults. These adults who are participating in this. They really convicted Sean Puffy Combs of being a sexual deviant and having a wild sex life, but they didn't convict him of a crime because it wasn't sexual trafficking. It wasn't RICO because he's got a music business. He didn't need these freak-offs in order to run his music business. And it was hard. You got to also remember, today is July 2nd. The holiday is coming up. They didn't deliberate that long, quite frankly. And so this is a real win for Sean Puffy Combs. Remember one other thing, too. Your parents will remember the Mann Act because it covered pimps and prostitutes and then black men who were involved with white women coming across the line in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. They used this Mann Act, but he's never been convicted of a crime. Why wouldn't they let him go home on a monitor or with bail? That makes no sense. He's only got 2 felony charges that'll serve him. He can get 0 to 15 years.
I lost Scott's signal. Matt, your assessment of this jury's verdict and the prosecution's and their of course, their failure, some say, to convict him on the most serious charges that could have gotten him life in prison.
Yeah, I think the last time you and I talked about this, I told you that this is where I thought the jury might really struggle. And I don't know. Obviously, I didn't get a chance to watch the evidence, and I don't know what the jury said if they were, asked about their decision after the trial. However, I always thought that the difficulty with this case for the prosecution was it was too nebulous in terms of the RICO. They charged it like it was to, quote, encourage his prestige and his power. But the reason I think that's difficult is because they had to relate it back to the Combs enterprise and furtherance of the goals of the Combs enterprise. And I just never thought they were going to be able to get there clearly. And I thought the jury might stick on that. I don't know if that's the reason they initially hung up on the RICO charge. But, the not guilties on the 3 that he got doesn't surprise me in terms of how they presented the evidence and also in terms of exactly what Scott was speaking to. I mean, you not only have people who were potentially consensually involved, but you have people who were involved and then left and then came back and, left again. And I think that when you're looking at it from a doubt perspective, the jurors really had to grapple with, is this really in furtherance of some conspiracy, or is this somebody who's just in Mr. Combs's orbit who's going to be staying in his orbit? And I think that's what it was. It was a question probably of whether it was really consensual, whether it was really coercive, and whether people were around him for some other reason than to extend this conspiracy. So I'm not surprised on the RICO charge. And a lot of times what juries do is they try to find some compromise. So there could have been some jurors in that jury room who said, we can't let him go free, on everything. So let's convict him of these two, transporting for prosecution acts and go with it from there. And jurors are not supposed to do that, but jury deliberations are secretive. And I think that very often happens. People feel like they don't want to let someone go for on everything. And maybe they thought the evidence on those was strong, but clearly they didn't think it was on the other charges. And I'm not surprised by the outcome, particularly with the RICO charge.
I'm going to bring in Rebecca Carruthers as well, but I'm going to go to Jasmine, Candace, and then Rebecca. I have seen lots of women, especially black women, Jasmine, say, look, this is a prime example of women getting screwed, women being abused, men treating them like rag dolls. And so it's been a lot of this that I've seen since this verdict came down this morning. Jasmine, you first.
Yeah, I said this too during another conversation that I think that the Me Too movement in 2017 really created this domino effect where you saw that a lot of women, especially women who've had positions or worked in the music industry, have come forward. And I don't think this will be the last time that we see something of this magnitude happen, perhaps of a man of Sean's stature. Because the reality is that there is a dark underbelly in Hollywood. And we're just now starting to get this reckoning, right? Where people are starting to talk about the things that they've experienced and what's been happening behind closed doors, these casting couches and things of that nature. And so I think that Cassie Ventura, I think her ability to speak up, her pressing charges, even if it was just a civil charge, I think will motivate other women, to speak up about some of the things that they've been experiencing behind closed doors.
Candace, saying to you, one of the things that we talked about, that in many ways, this was a domestic violence trial, but that wasn't that wasn't one of the charges.
No, they didn't charge him with that.
Candace?
Right. It wasn't one of the charges, and the statute of limitations had run, and it was a state issue. So yes, that is that. But the reason they brought it up is because on that particular day, they say that when Cassie was being dragged back to that room, there was a freak off that was going off in that room, and there were other people that corroborated her testimony to say that yes, there was a male in there. They were in the middle of a freak off. She was trying to get away, and that's where their coercion would come in. And so that's why when a lot of people talk about that assault video and say, well, why was it even in there? That's why, because the prosecution did a very good job of connecting the dots. But I will say this too, in their closing, the defense, they showed that exact same video after the dragging and showed Cassie in a very calm state talking. And they said, that's the part that you need to look at. Does she look scared? So, you can go back and forth and make your case. That's what good attorneys do. There are a lot of good attorneys here. But when we think about that domestic violence issue, that's why the prosecution brought it in. And like I said, did a very good job.
Rebecca.
I'm struggling with this a bit, especially with some of the rhetoric that I've seen online, the rhetoric that I've heard from associates. Quite frankly, it seems like many in our community don't understand sexual violence and don't understand what monsters look like. And in my opinion, Sean Combs is a monster. My question specifically is about the forensic psychologist, Dr. Don Hughes. Do you all think that she was brought in too early and maybe she should have been like a summary witness and maybe been like maybe the penultimate witness before the state closed?
Candace, do you want to take that one or you want me? I think they put on 34 witnesses. They started off strong. In my personal opinion, I think it started to fizzle after a while. You could even see the jurors were bored. I mean, at some points they were yawning or they had their hand down or their head down. Sean himself had his head down. I mean, these were long days of long testimonies. I don't know if juxtaposing her at a different point would have helped. I just don't think they were buying this idea, as you guys have said, of the RICO, just I don't think they were able to connect those dots. It is very difficult, and there's a lot of gray area when it came to his relationships with these women. Jane, in my opinion, was a horrible witness to put on. She did not come off as compassionate as Cassie did, not to mention there were so many inconsistencies in the things that she said. And at the end of it, it sounded like she was more motivated by money than anything else. And I think that was very damaging for the prosecution, having her on the stand. So I don't necessarily know that having her come in earlier would have helped any as it pertained to getting the RICO charge.
Can I jump in for a moment and just say that?
Hold on, Scott. Candace, go ahead.
Listen, there was a real strategy issue in terms of the clock that the prosecution had to think about because Cassie was pregnant. So she had to go first, right? And because of that, they had to put Don Hughes next to her or within 2 or 3 witnesses of her so that they would remember and connect the dots that here's the domestic violence victim, here's the person who stayed even though she sent these loving texts and was also, assaulted and said she was raped. Here's someone who now is going to explain that. And because she was early, Cassie, they had to put Don early. So I see your point, and that over 7 weeks, you can forget a lot of that details. What I didn't see as much of as that I would have liked in the closing for the prosecution is making that point that the reason why you're seeing somebody, these women who look absolutely confused, I love him, I don't love him, I was raped, I wasn't raped, let's make love, I love you. I mean, it was so many text messages that you just wondered. They should have given more credence and put more of Don Hughes in that closing statement in order to drive the point home if they wanted to make sure that in that deliberation room, they remembered, this is how a victim who is in a position where she is lower in the power chain actually acts.
Scott?
Yeah, real quick, as a former sex crimes prosecutor from New York, having tried several of these cases are tough. You got a sophisticated jury from New York. I'm not saying it's right, but the credibility of the women who are abused and who are taken advantage of, the problem with them having a prior relationship is because prior relationships are imperfect. Love and sex relationships are imperfect, and New Yorkers, as a sophisticated jury, they have their view of the world. These cases aren't going to be perfect as if you're trying them in Kansas, and yet and still, many of these victims will walk away from even going forward with the prosecution. So I applaud these women who went forward, but the evidence and the texts and the lack of credibility, it's just hard to get a conviction, even though they're telling the truth. And they're all telling the truth. It's just that the standard of proving a case beyond a reasonable doubt in the face of their cross-examination and lack of credibility, it makes it really, really tough to get a conviction. Either the standards got to change or the evidence has got to change when women who are abused say, I'm going to go forward. It may be too late to get a conviction.
Final comment from Jasmine, final comment from Candace. Jasmine, you first.
I think that my biggest takeaway from all this is that we don't know what victims of domestic violence looks like. We don't always know what people are going through. I've interviewed Cassie several times over the years, specifically 2 days after she was assaulted by Diddy in that hallway in the Intercontinental Hotel. And to see how she had on a brave face, glistening with bronzer, that they had covered all of her bruises up, a black eye, that she had faced such a horrific evening with this man and still walked the red carpet, talked with such enthusiasm about her film, was hand in hand with him, was a reminder to me that we always don't know what people are going through, but to be compassionate. And also a reminder, as I've said earlier, that we don't really know what's going on behind closed doors, and we can idolize somebody for being a billionaire and for making all these hit records, but we have to remember that they are human, they've got flaws. And this fall from grace, I hope, shows people that there's a lot that we still don't know about the entertainment industry, and I think a lot more that's going to come out very soon.
Candace?
Well, listen, October 3rd will be the day. His attorneys have even proposed about 21 to 27 months based upon the federal sentencing guidelines. We will see. And that's really when we will see what this means. He's going to get 10 months for time served. He may not even be there for that long. What people have been talking about in terms of this being like a hip hop reckoning, and he's the first person to actually go down. People move the culture and the culture moved the people. We are now in not a post-Me Too movement culture, but we are definitely really in a different time than when Harvey Weinstein in 2020 was brought up on charges. So we just have to think about how we actually are paying attention to the news, how much we are investing, and how much we understand what we are seeing on TV and writing about it and what's in our algorithm. It is very important for us to understand and make sure that we go to court and that we pay attention. And I'm just at least glad that this particular case has brought attention enough to it so that people are understanding that, listen, Rico is out there. And if he had been convicted, in my opinion, that would have been a terrible precedent, because there are a lot of people who have talked to me about, well, oh my goodness, could that have been me? I did these little things, and I think that might have added up to Rico. You bet your life it probably would have added up to Rico. This would have been a terrible precedent. I am not surprised at the outcome of this particular case.
Jasmine Simpkins, Candace Kelly, great job. Candace, great job updating our viewers of this trial for the past several weeks. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, Roland.
Go to our panel, final topic from each one of you on this particular topic before we go to a break and start talking about the big, ugly, disastrous bill. I'll start with you, Bat.
You know, I'll say two things can be true at the same time. We should support survivors. We should support people coming forward with, their lived experiences. But also, our system has to function this way. It's an imperfect system. But when you require unanimity, 12 people in the box have to see if the evidence gets you there to a conviction. Like Scott, I'm a former prosecutor. I've prosecuted these cases and defended them. And this is how the system works. 12 people sat in the box, they heard the evidence, and they determined that the charges weren't met. And that is a separate conversation from the very important conversation about supporting victims and supporting survivors. However, two things can be true at once. And I think that's what people need to take away from this, because the opposite of that is disastrous for particularly us as Black people in the country. Meaning, if you can get accused and convicted on innuendo or supposition or the idea that we're just going to blindly believe complaining witnesses, then we devolve into a state where somebody can make an accusation against you and your liberty is taken away purely on accusation. And that is not how it works. The unanimity of a jury system is a very important check to power. And in this instance, it looks like it worked properly.
Scott, it's what they say, guilty beyond all reasonable doubt.
That's right. I agree with all of my colleagues. I do think this is a real message to the government. The government is constantly trying to expand the reach of RICO in other jurisdictions, in other industries, not just the mafioso. And they've tried to do it with mixed success. And I really think this is a message to them that they need to think long and hard and twice if they're going to bring this type of case in this type of kind of sexual circumstance, because it's tough, because it's a prior relationship. I would urge, I support victims of domestic violence. I prosecuted those cases. And I would just urge those who have been abused to come forward sooner than later. Because sometimes when it's later, there's too much evidence and lacking credibility that makes a case like this allows the prosecutors to get a conviction. These are just facts until either the laws change or the criminal elements change, and they're not changing anytime soon, Roland.
Rebecca?
So I agree with Scott in part. 20 years, I was in law school 20 years ago, and the way RICO was defined then and the way it was carried out then is definitely different than the way it's carried out now, especially as we see different RICO charges against hip hop and rap artists, especially seeing it moving across the South. It's different. But focusing on domestic violence, I believe that the domestic violence statute of limitations ran out here, which is why there wasn't a domestic violence charge. But we also know, I think it's up to 1 out of 3 men are victims of sexual violence. And I think it's almost 1 out of 2, if I remember those numbers correctly, of women are victims of sexual violence. So at some point in this country, look, this is not legal advice that I'm giving, but we also have 2A as well. And so unfortunately, when we see that the criminal legal system doesn't provide the justice for victims of sexual abuse, sexual assault, then that causes people to look at other avenues of looking at justice. So once again, this is not legal advice. I'm not encouraging people to do or not to do whatever, but I also understand why there are some family and some folks who decide to protect their own.
Going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk with Congresswoman Shontel Brown of Ohio about Republicans twisting as many arms as possible as we speak in order to pass the Senate version of what they call the big beautiful bill, but where Democrats are calling it the big ugly disastrous bill. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change.
Mass incarceration, Trump administration is doubling down on criminalization, and how it is profitable.
And there's something really, really perverse about saying that we need to put people in cages in order for other people to have jobs. Like, that is not how our economy should be built.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Carl Payne pretended to be Roland Martin. Holla!
You ain't got to wear black and gold every damn place, okay? Ooh, I'm an alpha, yay. All right, you're 58 years old. It's over.
And you are now watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable.
Folks, we showed about 8 to 10 hours of House Rules Committee hearing yesterday, even after our show was over, where many Democrats, including many CBC members, were testifying, talking about how awful this bill that was passed in the United States Senate will be when it comes to Medicaid cuts, SNAP cuts, and a number of different things as well. One of the folks who spoke is Congresswoman Shontel Brown of Ohio, who joins us right now. Congresswoman, glad to have you back on the show. Look, they've taken a vote. They've held it now open for what, 3-4 hours? They're trying to twist as many arms as possible. You've got 10 to 12, my understanding, 10 to 12 Republicans who are holdouts because they actually think the Senate bill didn't go far enough. So you got these hardcore conservatives. They want to cut more. Now, Donald Trump, he's been making calls. And one of the things that I see this one report where they're saying that he doesn't even know what the hell is in the bill. He literally, apparently, according to this report, he told the Republicans, if you want to make sure you get reelected, don't touch Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. And one of the members said, but this bill does touch Medicaid. He doesn't even know what the hell this bill does.
Well, when you have a bill that's over 900 pages that has been pushed through overnight and expected to go through the regular order is what we would refer to it, and it has not done that, then there are going to be things that people do not know. We know the last time that the Republicans voted on a bill, they later admitted that there were provisions and things in the bill that they had not read, because it is not that easy to walk away from a 940-page piece of legislation in legalese, if you will, not in everyday layman terms, to be able to understand the ramifications and consequences that will inevitably happen to the people that they are clearly targeting in a very clever and sophisticated way, right? The problem is, if this bill passes, Roland, it will be the biggest cut in our nation's history to healthcare programs and the SNAP program, food assistance. So we're talking about $1 trillion taking away from Medicare, Medicaid, and subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. And what that means, essentially, you may not be on Medicare, you may not be on Medicaid, you may not be on SNAP, but what is going to happen as it relates to your healthcare? It's going to mean that those people who no longer have insurance are going to not get the health care that they need. They're only going to go when they need to go to the emergency room. That cost is going to be passed on to all of us. Rural hospitals are going to close. So this means that it's going to be less quality care, longer waits, and it's going to cost us more money. The poor will get poorer, the sick will get sicker, and undoubtedly, but the bottom line is we're going to create more debt, not just for the people, but for the country as a whole.
And what's interesting is that so many Republicans, they love talking about deficit. I mean, I saw these posts from that nutcase from South Carolina, Nancy Mace, going on and on about the deficit. Then she's like, let's pass this big, beautiful bill right now.
They have selective amnesia. They campaigned on these promises that they were going to lower costs, that they were going to reduce the debt, that they were going to, reduce the deficit. And they have not done that. They have done everything quite the opposite of that. When you think about inflation, when you think about Trump's self-imposed tariff war, when you think about these cuts that are going to really take 17 million, and that's from a nonpartisan score that has been given to this bill that's saying 17 million people will be kicked off of their health care. 17 million people. And that's just, I mean, that's going to have an economic impact. Not only are we just talking about the fact that, again, people are going to have longer wait times, hospitals are going to close, inevitably people will die because of this, because they just won't have access to the health care that they need. And Republicans just seem like they don't care. All because they want to give more tax breaks to the wealthiest among us. We're talking about upwards of a quarter $250,000 for people in the 0.1%, not 1%, the 0.1% will get tax breaks up to that. Yet you want to take the $6 a day away from folks on receiving SNAP benefits. The math just doesn't math. If the math is wrong, the morals are wrong. This is unfathomable. And then they want to also introduce and institute an unfunded mandate for states to pick up the bill for some of these programs like SNAP. They just don't have it in their budget. I came from local government, Roland, so I know how difficult it is. So what they're going to be doing is forcing states to make choices between healthcare, education, public safety, all of these things, because they want to give tax breaks to billionaires.
I'm sure a lot of those folks in Ohio who were yelling MAGA, 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 Trump, 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 are going to be shedding orange tears if this bill passes.
You said it better than I could, Roland. I think a lot of people are going to be devastated. You know, and this, for us, for some of us, I'll speak for some of us, we saw this coming, right? We warned people that this would be the ultimate plan. I mean, the man campaigned on some of these things, but I think that people thought that they would be exempt. You know, this is something that he was attempting to do back in 2016, was destroying our healthcare system. And this is, you know, one of the things I can credit the Republicans about is being relentless in their pursuit to get things done. And so they've been at this for a long time. And if this bill passes, they will have successfully be able to eliminate healthcare for, again, 17 million people. And as a result, hospitals will close, because a lot of these medical institutions depend on these programs to help operate their facilities. So they will close. And what will end up happening is everyone will have to pay the cost for this. And so don't think just because you're not a recipient of these programs that it is not going to have an impact on you. As somebody said, wait 5 minutes, it will.
All right, then. 17 minutes. Congressional Black Caucus is holding an emergency rally on the U.S. Capitol grounds. So I know you have to prepare for that. Congresswoman Shontel Brown, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Rebecca, I want to go to you. Listen, people are saying, look, they're like, none of this stuff matters. They're going to pass. They're going to pass it. Going to pass it. But what this is also about is forcing every single one of these Republicans, especially 35 Republicans who are Democrats are targeting in 2026, to cast a vote, because whatever vote they decide to cast, they're going to be campaigning on that, and the opposition will be targeting them as well.
It's clear, based upon the numbers, that the overwhelming majority of Americans do not like the things that will be cut if this big ugly bill is passed. One thing about the Democratic Party is it's one thing to say and talk and hold these rallies, but they need to be prepared to spend millions of dollars immediately in accountability ads in those 36 districts that you just referenced, reminding folks of, hey, your member of Congress just voted yes on this particular bill, and in the background list every single hospital, because there's over 300 hospitals in rural communities that will be probably shuttered by the fall if this bill was to pass. But list everything in that particular district negative that's going to happen as a result of that bill. Understanding that 80% of the country is going to have to pay higher taxes because of this bill. So those are the things that if the Democratic Party is going to do a fight, then they need to do the fight for real, and they better be prepared to spend money behind this fight if they want anything to change at the ballot box next year.
Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. I want the Democrats to fight to match the political gangsterism of the Republicans. Given the independents and conservative Dems and even the working poor in rural America, they are so committed to Trump that we've got to package our criticism and package their fight in a way that they understand it, simplify it, and hang it around the Republicans' neck like a weight. We are not good at doing that. We love attacking Donald Trump, but America knows Donald Trump, and they still voted for him. At least, arguably, the majority of Americans did, well, more than our candidate. But they've got to package it and message it in a way that is simple, direct, and hard-hitting, and convinces the average American that it's worth taking another look at the Dems. And then the Dems have to have not just their messaging, but their organization together and giving them a reason why, not just because of this big, ugly bill, but there's a reason why to give the Democrats another shot, because we work for the working poor, we work for the working man, and we're just better leaders at this stuff, as opposed to just having a cult-like personality. I'm not sure what the ultimate product is, but that's the goal of this product if we're going to get some power back in 2026 and ultimately in 2028.
I'm going to carry the baton from my two fellow panelists and say, in terms of that messaging, I think the Democrats need to be very, very, very strong on putting this into human terms, in terms of however they can quantify it, showing what these losses are going to look like on the ground. Not only that hospitals will be shuttered, but what that looks like for your average Medicare recipient, what they're going to have to forego in terms of, pharmaceuticals or their procedures or whatever they need, so that you can put that into human terms. And to give you kind of an analog to that, I was interested in what percentage of the population that's going to lose Medicare coverage is covered in Alaska. Alaska has only 740,000 people. So if every single one of those people was on Medicare, that would be 4% of the people that are going to be lost, who are going to lose their Medicare coverage. And if you think about it, Lisa Murkowski and her spinelessness and those 740,000 people that she represents, right, are now sending to the House a bill that's going to take potentially coverage from 17 million people. If you put it in a numerical context and you put it in a context like that, then it makes it easier for people to understand the enormity of the loss and also the enormity of the cruelty. And that's what this comes down to. It comes down to people who need health care, who are going to have that health care taken away from them because Trump and the Republicans want to give bigger tax breaks to people who are already rich. I mean, that's an absurd idea, but once you put it down on the ground in the messaging, I think it makes it that much more impactful. And I hope that the Democrats find a way to really run with that from a human interest standpoint, so we can see all the big mamas and people who are not going to be able to get what they need and what that human toll is going to be.
All right, folks, I got to go to a break. We come back. We're going to show you what happened last night when Congressman Maxwell Frost really ticked off the Republicans. Also, we'll be live from Capitol Hill for the Congressional Black Caucus's emergency rally at the Capitol. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join the Brina Funk Fan Club. You want to give to us via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. Checks and money orders. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. You can, of course, send to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. PayPal is R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo, RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Folks, we'll be right back.
This week on the other side of change.
Mass incarceration, Trump administration is doubling down on criminalization, and how it is profitable.
And there's something really, really perverse about saying that we need to put people in cages in order for other people to have jobs. Like, that is not how our economy should be built.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Don Winslow explains how it really works.
To end chain migration, ending chain migration, chain migration, chain migration, chain migration.
At the same time Donald Trump was spewing all this hate, he was using a high-powered lawyer and chain migration to bring his wife Melania's mother, father, and sister to the United States, where his money bought their citizenship.
Citizenship was just awarded to Victor and my
Canals. Here's how it works. At the same time plagiarizing plastic First Lady Melania Trump had kids pulled from their cages for this staged photo op, her family was living lavishly in the United States under permanent resident status. But that's mainly just for rich white people. If you're Mexican, you don't get to live in a fancy New York apartment while you wait. Donald Trump makes you wait in a cage. The world's most successful liar couldn't have his future wife be in the United States illegally, so he spent the big bucks to get Melania an Einstein visa.
Don't you think in any way that it's hypocritical that his wife got to stay in the country with an EB-1 visa, the so-called Einstein visa?
Not at all, Stephen. I know physics.
Now, the EB-1 is reserved for immigrants with extraordinary ability. And when you think of extraordinary ability, you don't exactly think of Melania. But Trump didn't care. He just wanted it done. Meet Michael Wilds, the high-powered lawyer who helped secure U.S. citizenship for Melania Trump and her parents Victor and Amaya Knott, and a green card for her sister Ines. See, when Melania became a citizen in 2006, it gave her the right to sponsor her parents and sisters, hence the name chain migration. Trump destroyed families and sold a closed border policy to his base while using chain migration to bring in his own family. At the same time, the Department of Homeland Security were ripping children from their mother's arms and locking them in cages, Melania's family was walking out of court with a personal security escort of Department of Homeland Security officers. Note the patches on the uniform. Donald Trump has one policy for white people and another for brown.
I met with the Border Patrol agents, and they're doing a great job.
Okay, stop the music. There are still thousands of children locked up in Trump's border prisons. There are children that have not seen their parents in years. How long can Trump keep them in prison? Do they get out when they're 18? Do they spend their entire childhood in a cage? Do they ever get out? Do they ever get out?
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie of A Balanced Life. Think about the men in your life and ask yourself these questions. Who are their male role models? Who can they turn to for advice to learn about what manhood is all about? On our next show, we talk about why male mentoring is so important to men of all ages. Actor Dondre Whitfield leads an all-star cast and panel to answer these and many other probing questions.
A woman can't teach you how to be something that she's not.
That's on the next A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie on Black Star Network.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I had been trying to get a record deal for a long time. You know, when I finally got signed to the Motown record label in 2003, I was 34, 35 years old. And up until that time, I had been trying to get record deals the traditional way. You know, you record your demo, you record your music, and you send it, you know, to the record labels, or maybe somebody, a friend of a friend, knows somebody that works for, you know, the record label. And really, chemistry that was my last-ditch effort at being in the music business.
How long have you been trying?
I've been trying since I was a teenager. Wow. And you know, and I'm grateful that it didn't. I'm grateful that it happened when it happened, because I wasn't prepared, you know, as a teenager to embrace all that comes with a career in the music industry.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
In France, me and Tony, and accidentally went to the Louvre, right? I had never been, and I saw a side door. And we got off the little bus. I said, come on, let's go to the Louvre. I mean, I'm just like, let's go to the Louvre, right?
We're here.
This black girl is at the door with this white guy, black African girl. And she says, oh my gosh, Vanessa Bell Calloway. And I'm like this, you know me? And come to find out we were at the wrong door. But she said, I'm gonna let you just go in here. But I was in Paris, France. Mm-hmm. And that shocked me. She knew my name, she knew me. Mm-hmm. My movie. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's like, you just gotta, they say, build and they will come. Put it out there, people will find it, they will come.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder Disney Plus, and I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Hey, folks, I'm actually headed to the U.S. Capitol for the Direction of Black Caucus, their emergency rally. But last night, man, things got real testy in the House Rules Committee when Congressman Maxwell Frost said something that I've often said on this show about Republicans saying, y'all really ain't pro-life. Watch this.
I got involved in politics when I was 15 years old because I didn't want to get shot in my school. It was a Sandy Hook shooting that pushed me into this work. 3 years later, a gunman walked into Pulse nightclub a mile away from where I was working and murdered 49 people and injured another 49. He didn't like them because they were gay and Latino. 3 months after that, I survived an instance of gun violence in downtown Orlando on Halloween of 2016. Hundreds of us running away from the gunfire. And that's after I had been involved in this work for three and a half years. You never think it's gonna hit you home, and then it hits your home. And then it hits the block you're on. 2 years ago, at the scene of 400 violent crimes, silencers were found. I just think it's despicable that the gun industry, the gun lobby, wants to push forth amendments like this that would result in more people dying just so they can sell more guns. No one on the Democratic side is advocating for anything crazy or radical. We want common sense gun reform that most Democrats, most Republicans, and most NRA members want. But it just goes to show you that organizations like the NRA don't even represent daily gun owners. They represent daily gun manufacturers and the people who sell the guns. They have no problems with more people dying as long as they can sell more guns. And if we want to talk about a safe America, over the last 3 years, because of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act passed by Democrats, signed by Joe Biden, and the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention, in the last 3 years, gun violence has gone down more than it has in our country's history. Cities of over 1 million people, gun violence has gone down 40%. This year, we're on track to have a reduction of 20% from last year. So we know that these solutions work, while of course respecting the rights of people, but also protecting the most sacred right, which is the right to live, the ability to walk down our blocks, go to our churches, our synagogues, our schools, our temples everywhere, and not fear being shot. And this false notion that you gotta pick one, you gotta either be for the Constitution or you're okay with people dying. I mean, it's just false. We are for rights, but we're also for making sure that the right to live is preserved. And that's been the fight of my life. That's why I came to Congress. And that's why I'm proud to be a Democrat and oppose this horrible bill.
Thank you. And I think that the theme that we are seeing is, you said it, a right to life versus their desire for profit. You just described that, and in this bill, that's what we see over and over again. The right to life, because you need the health insurance, versus the right for profit.
Yeah, see, they say they're pro-life because they want the baby to be born, go to school, and get shot in the school. Die in the school, die on the streets. No, that is what they say.
I'm moved to strike his words.
We've gone over. We were going to be quiet, but you've gone over now.
You didn't use any.
I meant every word.
We are going to strike your words. But on the other hand, it might be good to leave your words. It might be good to leave your words. Because that's how you feel.
But you are not going to come into this room and impugn our integrity. You will not. We are pro-life people from conception to natural death. Most of us are. And don't you come in here and say, we want to preserve life so people can get shot.
That's what I've seen.
Look, the point made there, Rebecca, is the one that I made on this show when I say these people are not pro-life, they're anti-abortion, and the reality is the actions that they take prove it every single day when it comes to their love affair with guns and the Second Amendment.
Night when you made when you had that conversation and you made that point, especially with talking to that very extreme pro-birth person who was in studio that night. Here's the thing about Max Frost. Like, I met him in 2016 when I was working for MoveOn.org, and I hired him as an organizer, organizing in the greater Orlando area.
I got involved in politics when I was 15 years old because I didn't want to get shot in my school. There was a Sandy Hook shooting that pushed me into this work.
Hey guys, we're playing the video. Okay, go ahead.
Yep. And then, so he talked about in 2015 what led him to get involved in politics. So I met him just after he graduated from high school. When he was turning 18. Here's the thing about Maxwell Frost. He is true to this. It doesn't matter what Virginia Fox says, whether or not, oh, you're trying to impugn us, you're going after our integrity. He's 100% right. He's arguing against the worldview that says we want to force you all to birth children, but then we're not going to do anything to make sure there's adequate health coverage, that there's adequate and affordable housing, that there is comprehensive and good and strong education. He's arguing against a worldview that just wants those numbers, and then they're trying to tie it to Christianity, but they're not doing anything to actually support people from the cradle to the grave. Instead, it's this performative politics that we're seeing in that particular worldview, saying that, okay, it's okay for us to do all these things that are against people having a good life while they're living, where they can actually flourish. So the thing about Maxwell Frost is the internet's forever. So it doesn't matter whether or not they keep it in the record or they strike it from the record. He's going to be in Congress, and he's going to have impact in Congress. And just hearing him talk through his personal story, his lived experience, and how Congress has failed to address the gun violence issue. And once again, what does this have to do with this bill? Why are those things being snuck into this bill? It clearly shows you that these bills that we're seeing with this particular worldview, it's a moral guide of where those particular people are, because they're not supporting everyday Americans.
Well, you're absolutely right. And Scott, I just think that's the kind of energy you need. Call them out on the issue and force them to have to deal with it.
No question about it. Where I come from, with that scenario that you just played is called a hit dog will holler. And Representative Fox started hollering, but the brother, the congressman, was speaking facts. He wasn't throwing bombs. And you know what, Representative Fox? You don't like it, then prove him wrong. Vote for gun control. Vote for the assault rifle ban. Vote to get people off the guns off the street, whether you think it works a lot or works a little. And you and I, Roland, have talked, and I've said that the conservative right has abdicated their responsibility for the killing fields of our young children, black, white, yellow, and brown, and pledged allegiance to the gun lobby and to the Second Amendment, to the detriment of our children, and they will do nothing about it, and they can't defend it. And that exchange and that hearing, right, was just capsulated what you said, what I've said, and all of us on these programs have said, and the Republicans just ignore it. They pledge loyalty to Trump and to the NRA, while the killing fields of our young people. The number one cause of death now, I think, for young people under 18 is gun violence. Think about that. That this is we call ourselves the greatest country in the world, and yet the number one reason our young people are dying are gun violence. That every day, maybe twice a day, we have mass shootings with weapons of mass destruction. That's shooting 2 people or more. We don't even report on it anymore.
Scott, 1 second. Matt, Scott, I got you. Hold on. Scott, hold on. Matt, you're there in Texas, and you got people like Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Governor Greg Abbott. They love touting their pro-life credentials, but they are the biggest gun lovers. They don't support mental health budgets. They always talk about life, but they want to cut programs for food for kids. I mean, you got to challenge these folks on their hypocrisy.
You absolutely do, and I'm glad you mentioned it because State Rep James Tallarico, put up a clip this morning on Instagram that I saw, and he's a pastor, as you probably know, and he just talked about how if Christ were here, Christ would be not only mad about the fact that we're not doing charity, but he would be mad about the fact that we have to have systems for charity. And I really thought that was very impactful because it spoke to the idea that there is a wide gulf between the rhetoric and the reality with conservatives because they want to act like they're about life, but then they do things like get rid of SNAP benefits or take away money from people that need it in Medicare. I mean, that's really what is supposed to be a fundamental tenet if you are a Christian believer of how you move through the world. And we see that they are continuing to do things that are in direct opposition to that. And as it relates to Abbott and Patrick, both of them are bootlickers for Mr. Trump, as we know. But Dan Patrick is the worst of all of them because he's not even from Texas, and he cosplays as a Texan, and he cosplays as a conservative when he's really from Baltimore. And, is really, a former DJ. So, we don't take him seriously. And even he and Abbott, as you know, right now are probably not in each other's good graces because Abbott decided to veto that bill that he wanted to pass as it relates to marijuana. But the reality of it is it's all about rhetoric. It's not about the truth. And we see that in their actions, not in their statements.
Sorry, Rebecca. This is who these people are, and unfortunately, I just think Democrats are too often too timid to call them out exactly on their bullshit.
Yeah, you got to speak truth to power because at the end of the day, we're all watching this and we're seeing people play in our face. So if elected leaders oppose what we perceive as what's being played out in our face, then they need to actually use their words and speak truth to power. One thing that even the Democrats need to consider, instead of saying, oh, well, you have to wait your term to get into leadership and it's by seniority, people like Maxwell Frost, people like Jasmine Crockett, those sound like the types of leaders that many Americans are looking for. Those are some of the people who might need to be running some of those committees or being the minority leader on those minority chair on those committees because they're more reflective and more in touch with what the American public is saying that they're fed up about. So as much as possible, those are the voices that need to be amplified and not necessarily people who've been there for 60 years.
Absolutely. All right, folks, got to go to a break. We are riding at Capitol Hill. We're going to be headed over to the CBC's emergency rally. We're going to go to a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin, folks, on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change.
Mass incarceration. Trump administration is doubling down on criminalization and how it is profitable.
And there's something really, really perverse about saying that we need to put people in cages in order for other people to have jobs. Like, that is not how our economy should be built.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Don Winslow explains how it really works.
To end chain migration, ending chain migration, chain migration, chain migration, chain migration.
At the same time Donald Trump was spewing all this hate, he was using a high-powered lawyer and chain migration to bring his wife Melania's mother, father, and sister to the United States where his money bought their citizenship.
Citizenship was just awarded to Victor and my
Here's how it works. At the same time plagiarizing plastic First Lady Melania Trump had kids pulled from their cages for this staged photo op, her family was living lavishly in the United States under permanent resident status. But that's mainly just for rich white people. If you're Mexican, you don't get to live in a fancy New York apartment while you wait. Donald Trump makes you wait in a cage. The world's most successful liar couldn't have his future wife be in the United States illegally, so he spent the big bucks to get Melania an Einstein visa.
Don't you think in any way that it's hypocritical that his wife got to stay in the country with an EB-1 visa, the so-called Einstein visa?
Not at all, Stephen. I know physics.
Now, the EB-1 is reserved for immigrants with extraordinary ability. And when you think of extraordinary ability, you don't exactly think of Melania. But Trump didn't care. He just wanted it done. Meet Michael Wilds, the high-powered lawyer who helped secure U.S. citizenship for Melania Trump and her parents Victor and Amaya Knott, and a green card for her sister Ines. See, when Melania became a citizen in 2006, it gave her the right to sponsor her parents and sisters, hence the name chain migration. Trump destroyed families and sold a closed border policy to his base while using chain migration to bring in his own family. At the same time, the Department of Homeland Security were ripping children from their mother's arms and locking them in cages, Melania's family was walking out of court with a personal security escort of Department of Homeland Security officers. Note the patches on the uniform. Donald Trump has one policy for white people and another for brown.
I met with the Border Patrol agents, and they're doing a great job.
Okay, stop the music. There are still thousands of children locked up in Trump's border prisons. There are children that have not seen their parents in years. How long can Trump keep them in prison? Do they get out when they're 18? Do they spend their entire childhood in a cage? Do they ever get out? Do they ever get out?
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. A very different take on Juneteenth with the one and only Dr. Sunyata Ahmed. We'll explore the amazing foods, remedies, and rituals that are a part of our history and the Juneteenth holiday.
So it's our responsibility to return the healthier version to our folks instead of just the red liqueurs marketed to us, the red sodas and the other things. I mean, why does the Kool-Aid man have to sound like Louis Armstrong? He's like, oh yeah!
Yeah, right. An enlightening and tasty hour of the Black Table, only on the Black Star Network.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I had been trying to get a record deal for a long time. You know, when I finally got signed to the Motown record label in 2003, I was 34, 35 years old. And up until that time, I had been trying to get record deals the traditional way. You know, you record your demo, you record your music, and you send it, you know, to the record labels, or maybe somebody, a friend of a friend, knows somebody that works for, you know, the record label. And really, chemistry that was my last ditch effort at being in the music business.
How long have you been trying?
I've been trying since I was a teenager. Wow. And you know, and I'm grateful that it didn't. I'm grateful that it happened when it happened, because I wasn't prepared, you know, as a teenager to embrace all that comes with a career in the music industry.
Hello, I'm Paula J. Parker. Truly proud on the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder on Disney+. And you're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Hey folks, what's up? Roland Martin here. So I'm actually approaching the U.S. Capitol. Let me just show you right here, where the CBC members are going to be assembling outside of the Capitol because they are, again, whole focus bringing awareness and attention to what's going on with this bill. Republicans have been scurrying, trying to get as many of their votes as possible. They have been struggling to do so. And so one of the things that they have done, they've actually kept the vote open for several hours. This is not the first time that's happened. Democrats have done the exact same thing. So what happens is you can actually, there's no time limit to when you're doing a vote. So you can actually call a vote, and then you can actually leave it open for several hours for give you an opportunity to negotiate, twist arms, do all those sort of different things that we often have seen happen in politics. And so, again, we're head out here. You got some fresh out here gathered so far, and their whole point is, again, to keep the pressure on. What you've seen over the past 48 hours, you've seen a lot of attention, a lot of pressure being put on people locally, making phone calls to House Republicans, Senate Republicans, when it comes to this particular bill. So one of the things that we've talked about is how do you put power into action? You'll see here, you got members of the media already setting up out here. And listen, it's a Wednesday before the 4th of July weekend. You've got a lot of these members trying to race back, trying to race to get back to town. They had to come back. And one of the things that happened was that you had storms on the East Coast. And so as a result, what you saw happen is that they some of them had to hop in the cars and drive here. So that's what's going on here. Rebecca, give us a sense for people who don't understand how things work on Capitol Hill, the frenzy that's taking place inside the U.S. Capitol right now.
Sure. So I want to point out it is highly unusual to hold open votes for hours over hours. It's something that procedurally can happen. However, it's very rare. Usually, if it's a bill, just like what Roland just talked about, where there's a call to a vote, and it wasn't predicted that there was going to be a call to a vote, and so normally you hold it to make sure enough people actually get back to Washington to indeed be able to vote. I will be interested in the parliamentary rules to see what is the time limit on actually being able to hold that vote open. But usually, if it's just a regular vote that is scheduled, people are already in town, they're in regular session, usually it's only held for like 15 minutes at that. Sometimes maybe on the Senate side, you'll see it maybe held a little bit longer, but normally 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes as a stretch. But the longer that vote is held open, there's going to be some doubts that creep in. So it's going to be interesting to see what exactly is happening. I've seen rumors today that there are some hardline Republicans on the Hill that are having negotiations with Speaker Mike Johnson to get some more concessions before they're ultimately willing to do an affirmative vote for this bill. But here's the thing: if the numbers were there at this moment, then there would actually be an expiration on this vote. It wouldn't just be held open indefinitely. So that lets me know that the numbers still aren't there. But what I'm curious, if it's just the hard right Republicans that are in negotiations, what happens to some of the folks if there are any members that are left in the Republican caucus that are a little bit more moderate, or at least the Republicans who are in seats that are going to be contested by the Democratic Party next year? I'm more curious to see what those 30-something folks are going to do. It's roughly about 35 folks. I think it would have been 36, but Congressman Don Bacon from Nebraska, too, which is the Omaha area, decided that he wasn't going to run for re-election. So now that's an open seat for the Republican Party. So right now, if I was to predict, my prediction is that the votes aren't there yet. And like what Roland said, with the weather patterns being what the weather patterns are, depending on how long this vote is going, I don't know that everyone's going to get back in town yet. But I'm also curious to figure out who is actually having the negotiation. Who are the people who are holding out? Is it truly folks are holding out, or is that the cover story because more people are furiously trying to get back to Washington, D.C. tonight?
All right, folks. Scott, we talk about lobby efforts. It's an intensive lobby effort going on. What you've got different groups all around the country. You got electrical workers, you got trade unions, you got Bishop of the Catholic Church, all making calls and putting pressure on Republicans to get them to vote this bill down.
hardline conservatives who are fiscal hawks who don't like the debt ceiling and what the additional debt it's going to raise. Then you have those in Republicans in purple states or Democratic states or districts that are going to be challenged by the Dems, as my colleague said, and they are terrified of voting when you're going to take 17 million people off the Medicaid bill. And then you have a group of Republicans who are a mix of both, if you will, and can't get there. In the end, they don't want to be primaried, and I think in the end, I think my colleague is right, they don't have the votes right now, but somehow the Republicans just seem to capitulate, and in the end, Donald Trump gets what he wants, which is not necessarily what's best for the country. And it's just really sad what's going to happen as far as what's predictable if history repeats itself.
We have, of course, the members out here. Let me see if I can grab Congresswoman Clark right here. Congresswoman Clark, you can step on over here for a second. We'll chat with her. Let me do this here. We give her a microphone. So while we're waiting on y'all, we're actually live. So yes. So let me go ahead and Yes, we are. So let me go ahead and do this here. Turn this on. And then we will just click this on you so we can hear you.
He's doing it right on the air.
Give us a sense of what the lobbying has been like for the past 24, 48 hours, trying to get those 4 Republican votes to vote no.
Well, it's been quite hard. We've tried everything, shaming. We've reached out. We've asked their constituents to reach out. I think these folks have really worked themselves up into believing that whatever the administration tells them, they will adhere to. So there are a couple of folks in the Republican Party who are moderates who are having a lot of heartburn over Medicaid right now.
That's all good. We just laughed right now. So now they know your feet ass. See, you the one, you tell us don't look at your ashy feet. Man, you done told everybody you got ashy feet.
You realize
Yes. We ain't taping, we live.
So what I was saying is that there's a group of moderates who are getting heartburn because they know that the Medicaid cuts are going to decimate the healthcare infrastructure for their communities. And then there are the sort of more extremist right wing who have been doing everything they can to basically cut down the size of the federal government and are concerned about deficit spending. So they see the need for more cuts to the federal budget, minus, of course, the Defense Department, where they have their contracts.
See, that's what that keeps cracking up. I keep hearing all of this stuff about cuts and SNAP and all these programs, and it's amazing how nobody wants to touch defense. It doesn't come up, and they actually want to give more money to it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the bill is packed with all manner of funding for paramilitary type of activities to expand ICE, which has no accountability to anyone, which will, I believe, have implications for vigilantism in the United States. And, I mean, the bill is horrific. It's the big ugly. There's no doubt about it. And, over 1,000 pages. We're still going through it. We just got it yesterday.
Got it.
Right? So we know that the big areas are nutrition assistance for our communities, and already our food pantries are struggling to meet the needs of our people. This will be a direct blow to families just when inflation has hit all-time highs and will continue to escalate due to the tariff regime that they put in place. And so, I mean, the United States is going to suffer. Our people are going to suffer. And we wanted to make sure that the Black community in particular is undergirded. Navigate our people through these really troubling times into victory.
All right, then. I appreciate it. We'll grab this here. So let me do this here, folks. We're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be right back from the U.S. Capitol right here at Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
this week on the other side of change.
Mass incarceration, Trump administration is doubling down on criminalization, and how it is profitable.
And there's something really, really perverse about saying that we need to put people in cages in order for other people to have jobs. Like, that is not how our economy should be built.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Don Winslow explains how it really works.
To end chain migration, ending chain migration, chain migration, chain migration, chain migration.
At the same time Donald Trump was spewing all this hate, he was using a high-powered lawyer and chain migration to bring his wife Melania's mother, father, and sister to the United States, where his money bought their citizenship.
Citizenship was just awarded to Victor Amaya Canals.
Here's how it works. At the same time plagiarizing plastic First Lady Melania Trump had kids pulled from their cages for this staged photo op, her family was living lavishly in the United States under permanent resident status. But that's mainly just for rich white people. If you're Mexican, you don't get to live in a fancy New York apartment while you wait. Donald Trump makes you wait in a cage. The world's most successful liar couldn't have his future wife be in the United States illegally, so he spent the big bucks to get Melania an Einstein visa.
Don't you think in any way that it's hypocritical that his wife got to stay in the country with an EB1 visa, the so-called Einstein visa?
Not at all, Stephen. I know physics.
Now, the EB1 is reserved for immigrants with extraordinary ability. And when you think of extraordinary ability, you don't exactly think of Melania. But Trump didn't care. He just wanted it done. Meet Michael Wilds, the high-powered lawyer who helped secure U.S. citizenship for Melania Trump and her parents Victor and Amaya Knott, and a green card for her sister Ines. See, when Melania became a citizen in 2006, it gave her the right to sponsor her parents and sisters, hence the name chain migration. Trump destroyed families and sold a closed border policy to his base while using chain migration to bring in his own family. At the same time, the Department of Homeland Security were ripping children from their mother's arms and locking them in cages. Melania's family was walking out of court with a personal security escort of Department of Homeland Security officers. Note the patches on the uniform. Donald Trump has one policy for white people and another for brown.
I met with the Border Patrol agents, and they're doing a great job.
Okay, stop the music. There are still thousands of children locked up in Trump's border prisons. There are children that have not seen their parents in years. How long can Trump keep them in prison? Do they get out when they're 18? Do they?
Hi, my name is Freddie Ricks. I'm from Houston, Texas.
My name is Sharon Williams. I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me? Still doing it.
Folks, we're here at the United States Capitol where Charlotte Congressional Black Caucus will be holding their emergency rally. We just talked to, of course, the chair of CBC, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. Now joining us, Congresswoman Maxine Waters. These sort of budget fights are not new to you?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, I'm here with the head of the Black Caucus. And we have been on the floor today where we did what is a line where we keep coming and others joined us. To say there's an amendment that could possibly undo what we're doing on Medicaid and on SNAP. And so in that leadership, I got very inspired. As a matter of fact, I got so worked up until I wanted to stay there all night long. We did it once before, didn't we?
You trying to pull a John Lewis, huh?
We were.
Trying to make some good trouble?
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. We did good trouble when we stayed there all night and we kind of made ourselves known. We're in that kind of fight now.
That's right.
It is a terrible fight that we're in. As a matter of fact, it has been said over and over again, there's never been these kind of cuts historically, ever, have the government moved this drastically on the population of people who need the government the most. When you talk about Medicare and Medicaid, people are going to die. We've got 16, 17 million people who are going to get cut, who won't be able to have the kind of basic care that they need to stay alive. And then we've got SNAP. Let me tell you, it's not SNAP, it's food stamps. Food stamps. It's food for people who cannot afford to put food adequately on the table and have the kind of nutrition just to keep them going. And so we're in this fight. Why are we in this fight? We have the most vile, the most corrupt, the most unkind, the most undignified human being who's the President of the United States of America, and he doesn't give a darn about the populations that's going to be impacted by the decisions that he's making. He's made up his mind that he is going to work for the billionaires in this country, and the billionaires want a tax break, and that's what he's going to give them. And out of all of that, he's going to get rewarded by them. He's owning all of crypto now, and he's getting billions of dollars, even from Abu Dhabi. He got, I think, $2 billion to go into stable coins. And so we're fighting. The Black Caucus is fighting. We're doing everything that we can. We're in the protest. We're on the internet. But in the final analysis, we got to be on the street. We've got to organize the way we were taught to do in the civil rights movement. We show up and we protest and we walk the walk. We've got to do all of that because this is a fight that we cannot be intimidated by the president. We cannot step backwards. We've got to fight, and even if he thinks he wins, we got to keep on fighting.
I mean, the logic of cutting food benefits, but then you want to go the corporate tax rate going from 35 to 21%. I mean, you already have corporations who put their money offshore anyway. I mean, that to me, what is crazy. And both of you have heard all these Republicans for years yell about the deficit, but they don't care that this is about to explode the deficit.
That's right.
I mean, you're like, okay, what happened to the deficit hawks?
That's right.
It's the dismantling. It's the dismantling of society as we know it. It is expanding the wealth gap way beyond what the average American has ever known. We're moving towards authoritarian oligarchy with these corporations and their leadership making out like bandits. This tax cut is a tax cut in perpetuity. This is not a sunsetted tax cut, and the reason we're here is because it would sunset if we didn't pass this legislation.
We've also seen they are rolling back the hiring of the IRS agents. That also was generating revenue. We are now seeing they were cutting the folks, firing the folks who were at the top line, going after the richest of the richest. And so up and down, they want to hook up folk who got money. And if you are making $80,000 or less, you're screwed.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, what people have to understand is the President of the United States is taking over all of government. And what he's decided, there'll be no more independent agencies. Right. They'd have to come and check with him, like the SEC, Securities and Exchange. They have to come to him before they do any public policy, before they do anything, and he will tell them whether or not they can do it. So in taking over all of the government agencies that are supposed to be independent, what you're talking about now, you're talking about a dictator.
That's right.
That's what he wants to be. He loves Putin. He loves Kim Jong-un over in North Korea. He wants to be a dictator, and he's moving rapidly toward it. He even now wants to take over the Fed. Right. And the Fed is supposed to be absolutely independent.
Right.
And so Powell is fighting back. You know, the man who's there, he's fighting back. But the president is continuing to say, I'm going to get you. And the way that they're going to get him now, they're going to put him under investigation. That's what they're doing to all of us. They put us under investigation. They've got the government's money to file lawsuits against us. And so they'll keep coming. And we're going to see what happens with Powell over at the Fed and whether or not they're going to get rid of him by putting him under a false investigation. This is a mean, low-down, cruel president of the United States of America. And I don't want people to think, oh, this is going to work out. If they, win the vote, they'll go in the back room and they'll negotiate. No, this is not that at all. This is horror and terror that's going to be placed on the most vulnerable people in this country. People who depend on government, who work every day, who are trying to get better careers so they can earn more money. These are the working people and the poor people that are going to be absolutely overrun by the President of the United States, taking away that which many of us have worked so hard for, to ensure that the government makes sure that it does everything that he can for people to have just a decent quality of life. Just a decent quality of life, which means you can eat, you have a decent place to live. You can get up on Sunday morning and go to church, but he has taken away our ability to have a decent quality of life. And he is absolutely focused on it and intends to make it happen whatever it takes. I could go on to any number of things that are unbelievable. When he took over and went to the Supreme Court with childbirth, and you know what they did? They just moved it over into saying, you know, the lower courts cannot overturn or deny the president on an executive order, whatever he wants to do.
Birthright citizenship.
If the lower court does it, it just remains in their jurisdiction. So you have a country where you have over here, your birthright can be taken away, or whatever they want to do. But next door to you, in the same district, they have a right to do whatever they want to do because he has undermined birthright by dealing with executive orders and whether or not the lower courts can tell him that his executive order is unconstitutional. I mean, this is some big stuff and people got to understand.
Absolutely. Looks like y'all about to get started real soon. So we're going to sit here, let you do that. I appreciate y'all chatting with us a second. Thank you so much.
Take any of it you want.
Oh, no, we live, so you took all of it.
Oh, is that
we were live, so you're good. We got all of it. All right, folks, again, we're here at the U.S. Capitol where in moments, Congressional Black Caucus are going to be having what they're calling an emergency rally here. They've actually asked a number of organizational leaders to come out, bring their people out. And so different members are going to be here. They're going to be bringing some chairs, and each one of them are going to be talking and sharing their perspective. So here's the deal. I cannot hear the control room or hear our panelists, but I'm going to go to Matt first. I'm going to go to Matt. I'm going to go to Scott. Then I'm going to go to Rebecca. And Matt, this is the type of thing that's needed. And here's interesting. I've been seeing all these people in the last couple of days talk about Democrats need to fight, need to do more. Well, first of all, you're severely limited when you don't control the House, when you don't control the Senate, when you don't control the White House. The reality is this here. If the Republicans want to pass this budget, they can pass this budget. Now, the fight right now is amongst Republicans as to whether they're going to approve the Senate version or do their own budget, do another bill, send that back to the Senate and go back and forth. And so the reality is what Democrats, the only thing they can do is aggressively lobby Republicans who are in very difficult districts to get them to understand that, guess what? Listen, you're going to pay a political price if you vote for it. That's really what we're dealing with. Matt?
Exactly. They need to break away, and they need to the Republicans who are in these moderate districts need to break away, and the people who are just, against the bill need to be swayed, hopefully, by the Democrats attacking them, saying, or really cajoling them to say, do the right thing, or else you're going to be on the chopping block. But, Rebecca said something earlier that I was thinking, I think that the subterfuge or the answer that they're giving about why the vote is open this long is because people are coming back. But I think what's really happening behind closed doors is certain Republican members are probably Murkowskiing, and they're probably saying, this is what I need for my district. Give me what I want for my district, and then I'll accede to what the president wants, which is what I suspect is happening. But I've never understood politically why you would want to sign on to this bill. I understand, that they're all afraid of Mr. Trump, but I would be more afraid of your constituents because so many of them are going to lose health care and it's going to affect their lives meaningfully that it seems like this would be the situation where you break away. But hopefully the messaging from the Democrats will cause them to do that.
We ought to be in the streets and what have you, but I always get back to the whole voting piece. Black and brown people and Democrats and independents got to vote. We told them what this was going to be like repeatedly. They lived through this once with Donald Trump won, and we just aren't voting enough to outvote the Democrats or outvote Trump and MAGAism. And we're losing black and brown male voters. We're losing independents. And so the Democrats got to get their message together, got to get their politics together. They got to get a message that is hard-hitting and makes sense. And then they need to get their own political gangsters out there, much like to match the Republicans, because we up against some gangsters. Some political gangsters. And so until that happens, I'm all about marching and protesting, but we got to get our power back. Without that power, it's hard to really make a difference and to fight back effectively for our people.
So there was a phrase that's really interesting that the Congresswoman said, and it was authoritarianism, but authoritarian oligarchy. And so I want to explore that more. Basically, what she's saying is we have consolidated power. It's by those who are the capitalists, those handful of folks who own the wealth in this country. And they're removing a lot of democratic principles out, and they're taking it out of our government. And instead, we see a consolidation of power. It's largely around money. And those are the things that are happening that are determining whether or not elected officials are going to vote for something like this that by all estimations is going to be really devastating to ordinary and the majority of Americans in this country. And so we could talk about voting. And of course, I lead a national voting rights organization, so I always support voting. But the thing is, people are going to have to turn out in such overwhelming numbers and flood the zone. And so many people have to show up. So then when we see like in a North Carolina, where you have someone who's duly elected to the state Supreme Court, and you see that there is like a 6-month battle with whether or not that person could be sworn in, because the person who lost decided that they wanted to be a sore loser and that they wanted to contest a race that should not have been contested. And they were using different legal maneuverings that also didn't make sense, right? And so we need so many people of good conscience to get ready to show up. There are elections in this fall, but also in the spring, there are primaries going into the 2026 midterm cycle. But those are the things that have to happen. If ordinary everyday Americans don't like what they're watching, if they're seeing, and especially by the numbers, we see that most Americans do not support the elements that are in this bill. But we are seeing that there's still a majority of members of Congress who have decided they're going to vote for it anyway, because their calculation is, you know what, you're going to hate what we're voting for, but guess what? You're going to vote and reelect me anyway. And there's no consequences that I'm going to have to pay. So it's one reason why you're seeing that the vote is still open, because there is active negotiation that's happening now, where you're going to see different members, especially members of the Republican Party, who are going to carve out what used to be called pork barrel special projects for their district. But, you know, you're going to have people maybe like a Virginia Fox saying, hey, disregard the 2 rural hospitals in my district that are about to shut down, and disregard that there's going to be long lines in the ER, because that's now how people are going to start to get their health care, because this cuts to both Medicare and it's cuts both to Medicaid. That's a large swath of Virginia Fox's district. But disregard that, because instead I have a new post office that's being named, or disregard that because I got an extra $10 million that will go support small businesses in my district. People have to make sure that they're not falling for the okie doke, because yeah, it's great. There's an extra $5 million to support small business, but at the cost of upwards 43% when I'm thinking about Alaska of people who are either on Medicare or they're on Denali Care. Denali Care is Alaska's equivalent of Medicaid, which is for working families and for poor families and for children whose parents aren't able to buy them private insurance to make sure that they still have adequate health care. And so people can't fall for the okie doke here. Don't let someone play in your face or lie in your face. You actually have the tools to look up and see what the devastating consequences are going to happen, because your representative is hell-bent on voting for a bill that by all means is a bad bill.
All right, folks, so we'll do a reset. So we left our studios at 16th and K on what I still call Black Lives Matter Plaza, the race down here to the United States Capitol. So as you can see, go ahead and pan. So you got a number of members who are here: Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, Congressman Troy Carter. You got Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, who's head of the CBC. You got Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, Congresswoman Lucy Bath, Congresswoman Lauren Underwood. We've got other members leaders who are going to be coming. And so shortly, they're going to be speaking at the podium and also addressing folks. And what they've done is they've sent the word out to a number of organizations, civil rights organizations, political organizations. I see the brothers who win with black men. I saw Khalil Thompson a little bit earlier over here. They got their table set up as well. So what they've been doing is wanting as many folks as possible to come out here for what they are calling this emergency rally. Again, drawing attention, driving attention, because the pressure is being put on Republicans inside of that building, the U.S. Capitol. Donald Trump gave the Republicans a deadline of July 4th, where he wanted this bill passed, and so he wanted this bill passed by July 4th, and so they want to meet that deadline, but they got some Republicans who are actually stuck. Joining us right now is Congresswoman Lauren Underwood. So you can just go ahead and hold it. So that's cool. One of the things that's really jumping out here, you have all these Republicans who were saying, "Oh no, don't touch Medicaid, don't touch Medicaid." Trump, there's a report that said he met with them and he literally said, "Hey, if you guys want to survive politically next year, don't touch Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security." They were like, "Dude, this actually cuts Medicaid." And it's as if he doesn't know what the hell his own bill even does. And so it's amazing to listen to them bemoan that, but I'm going to go ahead and vote for people like Senator Josh Hawley.
Yes, because Mitch McConnell says they'll get over it.
Yeah, that was his literal quote.
Well, we're all going to die anyways. So they don't care. The cruelty is the point. They raise these objections as lip service, and then they all cave. That is how they operate every day in service of one person, Donald Trump.
I was talking to Ken Martin yesterday here at the DNC, as well as Leader Jeffries, and there are 35 what they call vulnerable Republicans, and who Democrats are targeting next year. But do you believe that they're going to actually show some heart and vote, for the constituents, or are they going to bow down to dear leader?
They are all going to vote for this bill. This is the singular legislative priority for Donald Trump, and they are here to make sure that Donald Trump is happy. And then they will lose their majority in November 2026, and we will be back in charge of the House of Representatives and reclaim the people's house for the people.
And so for the person who's watching, for the person who's listening, who would say, well, okay, so you think it's going to pass anyway, why do all of this? Why?
Well, because they don't have the votes yet. They're in the middle of these negotiations right now. They are jockeying. They are horse trading. They are literally getting whipped. They are bending to the knee, and someone's coming and slapping their behind to whip them in line.
Because the vote is still open.
The vote is still open, and it's been open since 1:30 this afternoon.
So that's 6 hours.
Yes, sir. And so
which is not normal.
It is completely abnormal. We flew in. They summoned us here, knowing that they didn't have the votes. They did the test vote. They didn't have the votes. And now they're trying to get a grip and figure it out. This is where you come in. This is where the phone calls come in. This is when the stories come in. This is when the activations are important to show them so that they can't say they didn't know. So they can't say, well, no one told me. So they can't say, well, I didn't see that in the bill. We're standing here today saying that 17 million people are about to lose their health care. Millions more are going to see their costs rise. We're standing here today
and a whole lot of red states.
Oh, every state, every zip code, every zip code. Mm-hmm. We're standing here saying that rural hospitals are about to close. The nursing home industry is going to collapse. What that means is end-of-life planning for grandmama and them, like for real. There's not going to be anywhere for our loved ones to get the level of care that they deserve.
If folks understand, this ain't a black thing. We're talking about the entire Louisiana healthcare system. Yes. Said to Speaker Mike Johnson, "What are you doing?" You got the building trades, the electrical workers who are saying, "Oh, y'all killing all this green jobs. You're killing the manufacturing," and they're just kind of like, "Nope, don't matter. We're good. Don't matter."
Because the billionaires are getting their tax cuts, and for them, that's enough. For them being these House Republicans.
And the large corporations.
That's right. But for working families, regular Americans, we know that people in our communities are going to be going hungry. Kids, veterans, seniors going hungry. The largest cuts to food stamps. For some of you, y'all might call it EBT, right? Like, y'all know what we're talking about? Mm-hmm. Cut all this paperwork designed to make sure that you don't get that $6 a day to help you feed your family.
And then they're claiming there's 4.5, 5 million people on Medicaid who are able-bodied people, so that's their rationale.
Listen, they're trying to create this archetype as if there's some 30-year-old man in his parents' basement playing video games all day, eating off the system, trying to get some health care. That's what that guy should be going to work.
I think that's the new Ronald Reagan welfare queen.
Well,
which we now know was non-existent. That was fictitious.
Who's actually on Medicaid? Half of all kids in this country are on Medicaid. Medicaid pays for 2/3 of births for black moms and families. We're talking about moms and babies getting kicked off their health care. And they're doing it to give billionaires a tax cut. That's it. And they think that you all are going to get over it. You have to stand firm and say absolutely no. Unequivocally no.
Are they hearing from their districts? I mean, look, the Fox News poll shows 60% was against this bill. I mean,
it's never been popular.
Right.
And no poll, none has this been popular. But you know what Mitch McConnell said? They'll get over it.
That's literally what he said.
And so, we need you to call, like right now, today. Pick a Republican, any Republican.
Right.
It doesn't matter which one. And it doesn't have to be your representative either.
Yeah, I told everybody yesterday, guys, every Democrat's voting against it. I said, so tailor your, I said, don't waste your energy trying to call a Democrat in the House. You should be calling Republicans in the House.
Yes. And share the stories. There's not you don't need a script. You don't need to read off a script. You're not going to do it wrong. And I know that some people don't like to make phone calls. They like to text.
No.
They like to post. They like to slide into DMs. This is not that moment. You gotta just
No. They gotta lock up phone lines
and make that phone call. Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Roland.
Congresswoman on the wheel. We appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Thanks a bunch. All right, folks. We're gonna go to a quick break, and then we're gonna come back, and then hopefully this will be starting soon. We're gonna be carrying it live right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered, right here on the Black Star Network.
Thank you.
On the other side of change.
Mass incarceration, Trump administration is doubling down on criminalization, and how it is profitable.
And there's something really, really perverse about saying that we need to put people in cages in order for other people to have jobs. Like, that is not how our economy should be built.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Don Winslow explains how it really works.
To end chain migration, ending chain migration, chain migration, chain migration, chain migration.
At the same time Donald Trump was spewing all this hate, he was using a high-powered lawyer and chain migration to bring his wife Melania's mother, father, and sister to the United States, where his money bought their citizenship.
Citizenship was just awarded to Victor and my canals.
Here's how it works. At the same time plagiarizing plastic First Lady Melania Trump had kids pulled from their cages for this staged photo op, her family was living lavishly in the United States under permanent resident status. But that's mainly just for rich white people. If you're Mexican, you don't get to live in a fancy New York apartment while you wait. Donald Trump makes you wait in a cage. The world's most successful liar couldn't have his future wife be in the United States illegally, so he spent the big bucks to get Melania an Einstein visa.
Don't you think in any way that it's hypocritical that his wife got to stay in the country with an EB1 visa, the so-called Einstein visa?
Not at all, Stephen. I know physics.
Now, the EB1 is reserved for immigrants with extraordinary ability. And when you think of extraordinary ability, you don't exactly think of Melania. But Trump didn't care. He just wanted it done. Meet Michael Wilds, the high-powered lawyer who helped secure U.S. citizenship for Melania Trump and her parents Victor and Amaya Knott, and a green card for her sister Ines. See, when Melania became a citizen in 2006, it gave her the right to sponsor her parents and sisters, hence the name chain migration. Trump destroyed families and sold a closed border policy to his base while using chain migration to bring in his own family. At the same time, the Department of Homeland Security were ripping children from their mother's arms and locking them in cages, Melania's family was walking out of court with a personal security escort of Department of Homeland Security officers. Note the patches on the uniform. Donald Trump has one policy for white people and another for brown.
I met with the Border Patrol agents, and they're doing a great job.
Okay, stop the music. There are still thousands of children locked up in Trump's border prisons. There are children that have not seen their parents in years. How long can Trump keep them in prison? Do they get out when they're 18? Do they spend their entire childhood in a cage? Do they ever get out? Do they ever get out?
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
In France, me and Tony, and accidentally went to the Louvre, right? I had never been, and I saw a side door. And we got off the little bus. I said, come on, let's go to the Louvre. I mean, I'm just like, let's go to the Louvre, right?
We're here.
This black girl is at the door with this white guy, black African girl. And she says, oh my God, Vanessa Bell Calloway. And I'm like this, you know me? And come to find out we were at the wrong door. But she said, I'm gonna let you just go in here. But I was in Paris, France. And that shocked me. She knew my name, she knew me. She knew my movie. You know, so it's like, you just gotta, they say, build and they will come. Put it out there, people will find it, they will come.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I had been trying to get a record deal for a long time. You know, when I finally got signed to the Motown record label in 2003, I was 34, 35 years old. And up until that time, I had been trying to get record deals the traditional way. You know, you record your demo, you record your music, and you send it, you know, to the record labels, or maybe somebody, a friend of a friend, knows somebody that works for, you know, the record label. And really, chemistry that was my last-ditch effort at being in the music business.
How long have you been trying?
I've been trying since I was a teenager. Wow. And you know, and I'm grateful that it didn't. I'm grateful that it happened when it happened, because I wasn't prepared, you know, as a teenager to embrace all that comes with a career in the music industry.
Hi, I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. I don't play Sammy, but I could. Or I don't play Obama, but I could. I don't do Stallone, but I could do all that. And I am here with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
All right, folks, in just a moment, Congressional Black Caucus is going to start. They brought these chairs out here. They got some different young folks out here who are impacted people, so they're going to be having them talk as well. And so we're about to carry that live. So they're about to start right now. So they're about to file in. And so here we go. And so they're going to grab the mic here. And so good to see you, Congresswoman.
Hey, good to see you.
Absolutely,
bro.
absolutely.
Out here with the people.
Absolutely. And so we're going to start in just a moment here, and hear what they got to say. All right. So again, let me name the folks here. You see, you've got Congresswoman Lauren Underwood, you got Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, you've got Congressman Troy Carter, New Orleans, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, Congressman Hank Johnson, you've got Congresswoman Lucy McBath, you've got Congresswoman Latifah here, and then you've got, of course, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, and other members are going to be coming as well. And so we're going to hear from them in just a second. So that's Congresswoman Latifah Simon, who's on the far left as well. So there we go. So we're about to start in a second.
All right.
Yeah, I got the DJI mic up here. They got they have a speaker here as well, folks. So we'll be able to hear them, and so we'll work through it. All right. Mark, is that speaker on? No, it's not on.
Want the panel to go?
Testing 1, 2,
so let me thank, so folks who are watching, let me thank Rebecca, Matt, and Scott for being with us. And so stuff changed quickly, and so I appreciate y'all being on today's panel. So let's go ahead. We'll get started from the U.S. Capitol. Yeah, we need to pull that. Yeah.
pass this over to
There we go. Sorry. There you go. I think there you go. Ready?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to thank Congresswoman Clark for inviting us all today. And if you know the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, you know that it is in our tradition to honor the folks who have driven the way. We have Maxine Waters and others. But Rep. Clark, thank you for allowing me to speak first as the newest member of the Congressional Black Caucus. I want to be clear why we are here and why we will not leave this floor until we all vote hell no, every single Democrat. But the consciousness of the Congressional Black Caucus has always been pure. That we have fought for poor people, we have fought for folks red and blue, we have been consistent, literally, in the theology of freedom, that everyone deserves rightful treatment. When you are sick, you deserve health care. That our community should be abundant, and that no one should be left behind. Many of you all have watched these folks, as I have over the years, standing on the congressional floor, sometimes sitting on the floor, being a mirror to the evil that exists in that dome. And one of the things that we need to be clear about tonight at the CBC, and you'll hear the whys of how our heroes who will march up those stairs in just an hour or so, what we will be bringing with us. We are bringing forth every single elder in our community that is on Medicare. We are building the love of the many foster parents that we are supporting and cheering for as they do the good work as the Republicans try to fill their Medicaid. We are loving on the young people in every single city in all 50 states and territories who are living off of $6 of snacks a day and saying, not only do you deserve that, you deserve more, while these folks behind us are trying to rip your dignity and take the literal benefits that your grandmother has worked for. We say, no, we are going to continue to fight and know that the Congressional Black Caucus will never falter. We will never give up. While we don't know what's going to happen on the other side of this vote overall, we know damn sure that Black folks in Congress who belong to this caucus will never give up on our rightful assignment. And that's to consistently tell the truth. It is to stand in unity. And I want to give it back to Representative Stark, and I want to thank you for your stewardship. And I want to thank you, Maxine and others, for leading the way for young people all over the country to remember the words, and it's you all, to remember the words of Ella Baker. Ella Baker was so clear. She said, young people come first because you have the courage where we fail. If we do not fight for the now, there will be no future that you will own. So this movement is yours, and hopefully we will bring your voice up those stairs and make you proud. Let's fight.
We're going to have Mark, Reverend Mark. Right behind you.
Thank you, Congresswoman. No, you can speak. I've just been given an assignment. Executive Director Vincent Evans, let's give him a round of applause. His assignment, he's instructed me to instruct each of you, and even from some of the organizations that are here. I see LDF is here and one or two others. We'll hear from them tonight. He wants each of you to articulate the why and the who and the why you are here. Speaking on behalf of any one of your constituents who is going to be affected or in fact devastated by what this big ugly bill will do, so that the people can hear us and we can meet them on the ground. That's what Vince has asked of us. Is that okay?
That's right.
He asked me to ask y'all to do that. I just come up here and do that.
No, thank you.
I want y'all to get on me. You want to do that first since you can close?
Okay.
Describe who you are here for.
I'm here for folks who've led the way and folks who are waiting for us to continuously stand up for them. I'm here for, like I said, foster foster children, young people who are incarcerated, the men and women who are coming home from prisons and jails. We are here for the disabled community who are literally fighting to survive and fighting to live. Our wives are to be literally the folks that represent the folks who need us the most.
And please introduce yourself, if you will, Dr. Kelly.
Benjamin F. Chavis Jr., National Newspaper Publishers Association, representing the Black Press of America. I'm so pleased to be here with the Congressional Black Caucus, and let me just succinctly say, 50 million Black Americans are opposed to this bill. And we've come today to stand with the Congressional Black Caucus. This bill is going to be devastating to Black Americans. It's going to be devastating to people who have Medicaid, devastating to people who are going to lose their health care. I have a sister, Congressman Clark, who runs a rural hospital in Oxford, North Carolina. And she called me today, she said, they're going to have to close the hospital if this bill passes. So this is just not for the urban community, suburban community, it's also for the rural community. The people who are voting for this bill have no care about the majority of Americans. And so we have to stand with the CBC. We have to stand with all the communities to oppose this bill, now and forevermore. Never to allow this bill to be passed.
If someone, you want to hear about the personal stories of the people that are in here, that's right.
Good evening. I'm Congresswoman Lauren Underwood. I'm honored to represent the 14th Congressional District of Illinois. And I am here thinking about the millions of Americans who get health care coverage through the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, who have benefited from some tax credits that we had signed into law under Joe Biden that allowed 4 out of 5 people to get health care for $10 or less a month. Now, you all may know that I'm a registered nurse, and I have pre-existing conditions myself, and I have had Obamacare coverage, and I know what it means to get a bill for a premium that's expensive. And so the opportunity to lower health care costs for the American people was so popular that we had the lowest number of uninsured Americans in U.S. history. We did that, and this bill would rip it away. The Republicans have declined to extend these tax credits that have offered the promise of health care coverage to millions of Americans. And now we know that 17 million people will lose their coverage, and hundreds of millions more will see their costs rise when this bill passes. That's why I'll be voting no. And I want to remind people that none of this was inevitable. We have an opportunity right now to continue to raise our voices. So if you haven't made a call to a House Republican and shared your own health care story, told them how the closure of a rural hospital or a closure of a nursing home or a closure of a community clinic would hurt you and your family and your community, please don't wait another moment. Pick up the phone and make a call right here to the United States Congress and let the House Republicans know the damage that they are inflicting on our communities. Thank you.
Congressman Wilson, who are you?
Hello, I'm Congresswoman.
I don't think you're on. Come close to your mouth. Yeah.
I'm Congresswoman Frederica Wilson from Miami, Florida. I'm a school principal, former school principal, a former student, and I know what happens when little children come to school. When we cut SNAP, that's what's going to happen to these families. Children are not come to school with a full breakfast and a full lunch because they have already cut it out in the budget. And I want you to know at Miami-Dade County, that's an immigrant-rich community, they have built something called Alligator Algebra. The funding for Alligator Algebra is in this bill. It's $450 billion a year to operate. So that's why because I represent so many Asian Americans, so many Hispanic Americans, There's a number that's called and they will ask you, who do you want to speak with? And let's tell them. And you implore that representative to go bill that's going to cause and death in the black people.
This week on the other side of change.
Mass incarceration, Trump administration is doubling down on criminalization and how it is profitable.
And there's something really, really perverse about saying that we need to put people in cages in order for other people to have jobs. Like, that is not how our economy should be built.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Don Winslow explains how it really works.
To end chain migration, ending chain migration, chain migration, chain migration, chain migration.
At the same time Donald Trump was spewing all this hate, he was using a high-powered lawyer and chain migration to bring his wife Melania's mother, father, and sister to the United States where his money bought their citizenship.
Citizenship was just awarded to Victor and my canals.
Here's how it works. At the same time plagiarizing plastic First Lady Melania Trump had kids pulled from their cages for this staged photo op, her family was living lavishly in the United States under permanent resident status.
Of these institutions. We're talking about a collapse. And that collapse has a ripple effect across the entire city of New York because we are all interconnected. I think about those families in my district that are currently utilizing their SNAP benefits to access food through food pantries. There is such an inflation in the cost of living in our nation that we are trying to find ways for people to be able to access nutritious food at lower cost. Think about those who are not nutritionally sound, who are not healthy. The nutrition we all seek also goes to our physical wealth and mental well-being. Without that, we can see the constant decline in the health of the people of a society. Not only will that, the SNAP benefit, the cut to SNAP benefit have a profound impact on our communities, but it will then have a ripple effect on the health of our people just when they won't have access. They won't have access to Medicaid. I think about the young people who have these gig jobs, and these gigs is a part of the gig economy. They don't have health insurance, but they were able to access Medicaid. And so their primary care was assured because we, as a civil society, looked out for young people who are out there striking out on their own and just trying to get a leg up in this economy, in our society. This is probably the most wicked thing that a government could do to its own people. To its own people. And to know that there are cowards in the Republican Party that is allowing their own people to suffer just to be able to sit at the feet of Donald Trump is just as horrific as we can ever imagine. I can't imagine what it is to give up my dignity to a man who doesn't deserve it, to be able to just maintain a seat in the Congress, but let my constituents suffer. Let my elders in my community suffer. Let the young people of our community suffer. And so we are here to say hell no. Every Democrat in the House of Representatives will be voting no on this big, ugly bill.
Congresswoman Clark, let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you, sir. It's personal, please.
Congressman Troy Carter from
Louisiana, representing the 2nd Congressional District. I want to first thank our chairwoman for bringing us together at a time when we really need to be together. And I will tell you, who am I here for? Who are we here for? We're the people that don't have a voice. We're the people that don't have a seat. We're the people that don't have a voice. But that's okay. We're here for you. And when we're at the table, you're at the table because we're going to continue to fight for you. This big, ugly bill is going to wreak havoc throughout our country. It's going to hurt the black community perhaps more than any other community. But guess what? They're going to hurt too. And these guys don't even care because they have taken the hook, line, and sinker to follow Donald Trump down a rabbit hole that they'll never come back from. People that will be denied Medicaid, who will lose their benefits one way or the other because they have made this so complex that you have to reapply and reapply. Listen, if you had to reapply for your driver's license twice a year, people wouldn't be able to drive. They know this because people are busy working, living, trying to raise their families. So the expectation is people, even though they may be eligible, will be kicked off the roads because they make the paperwork so onerous that they can't keep up. This is a trick. This is a trick of an evil regime. And we are going to, as Congressional Black Caucus, we're going to continue to call it out. We're going to call balls and strikes. We're going to call it everywhere we go, with our fraternities and sororities, in church organizations, with our faith-based communities, with our civil rights leaders, with the caucus and beyond. Because however they vote today or tomorrow, this battle is not over. We're never going to quit. We're never going to retreat. When I was in the state Senate, we expanded Medicaid. And when we expanded Medicaid, one of the first things happened, tens of thousands of people got on the roads. People started having access to health care. Rural hospitals started opening up. People that had been denied health care were now being covered. Guess what will happen now? The reverse is also true. Those rural hospitals will close. And that critical time when you're having a stroke or a heart attack, those precious moments that you no longer will have to get to a community clinic or a rural hospital, people will die. In those moments where you have to drive 20, 30, 40, 50 miles to see a doctor when you've had a stroke or a heart attack, people are going to die. That's just a fact. That's a reality. And the notion that one of our senators said, we're all going to die. We don't need to die prematurely. That's right. And we don't need to die because we were denied access to health care. We don't need to die prematurely, although they seem to think, as Mitch McConnell said, don't worry, they'll get over it. No, we won't, Mitch. We're not going to get over it. We're never going to get over it. And we're going to continue to fight for the people. And we're going to make sure that the people like the McCorkins, who I brought up from Louisiana to come to Energy and Commerce, who has a child that was born severely disabled, who requires Medicaid. Now, his mother and father both work. This notion that people who are on Medicaid are scofflaws and bums and gangsters and get-over artists is offensive and false. There are people out there that need Medicaid for a number of reasons. People who are employed but are underemployed. Working but still poor. Are you going to tell me that these people are scofflaws and bums? I think not. But that's what they think of you. That's what they think of our people. And this Congressional Black Caucus, all the people assembled, we don't think that. And we're going to fight for you. We're going to fight that you have access to health care. We're going to fight for you to have access to SNAP dollars, not $6 a day, because that's ridiculous. And they want to reduce it and take it away. This caucus, this Congress, on the Democratic side, will continue to fight for the people and bring justice. And we, us, all, are going to vote against this big bill.
Yeah, big ugly. Big ugly.
Congresswoman George Bates.
Give him a round of applause.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm Congresswoman George Beatty. I hail from the 3rd Congressional District of the great state of Ohio. Chair Emerita of the Congressional Black Caucus. Yeah. I am here to join my colleagues and our leader, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, to say to you that I will be casting a no vote on this bill. Why am I here? I am here for those who we can call their names and those who are named. I am here for every family, every single mom, every sick child, every child trying to get a better education, whether they are in rural America or urban America. They deserve the right to keep their hospitals open. They deserve a right to keep health centers open. I'm here to vote no because this is the largest amount of Americans that will lose their health care. 17 million families and individuals are at jeopardy. Some 11 million children will be taken off of SNAP. I am here because I want all of America to know that we are not only the conscience of the Congress, but we are here because earlier today, we stood up. We had a stand in because we are standing for the people. I am here because I want to make sure that we give this clarion call to answer your question. When you are asked, what is the Congressional Black Caucus doing? I don't want it to be a mistake. I want you to clearly say they are fighting for our people. They are standing up and making a difference. They are not afraid to call out Republicans. Let me make it clear that whether it is health care, whether it is the Pell Grant, whether it is SNAP, it is not a Republican or Democrat issue. It's a people's issue. But what is a Democrat and Republican issue is that Republicans do not have the courage to do what's right. And you should not forget that. My question to you is what you are going to do. And that is, you are going to vote. You are going to vote just as we are asking in the United States Capitol later tonight that we only need 4. We only need 4 Republicans to join us. So I need you to remember, we only need 4. 4 Republicans could save the lives of millions and millions of children, of families, of hardworking Americans. So join me, and let's say we only need 4. We only need 4. And I yield back my time.
Thank you, Congresswoman Bailey. How this affects you, Congressman Hank Johnson, and those your constituents.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And I am proud to be here with my fellow members of the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, under the leadership of Chairwoman Yvette D. Clark, my classmate from the class of 2007. We've been in Congress for 19 years together, and so I'm privileged to be sharing this moment with you as well as my other members and the stakeholders who have joined us. You know, I think about over the last 40 plus years that I've been a resident of the community where I live, which is the 4th Congressional District of Georgia. I've seen the mushroom of kidney dialysis clinics popping up all throughout my community. In fact, you can look around in some places and there's a dialysis clinic on every corner. And it's not just older people who are going in 3 or 4 days a week to get dialysis to stay alive, because if they don't go, they will die. But it's young people too. That's right. Who are suffering from kidney disease, from diabetes, from high blood pressure. And there's thousands of them just in the 4th district who are making that trek every week, 3 or 4 times a week,
And many of them work, but some of them can't work. But I'll tell you this, most of those people in those dialysis clinics could not be there unless they were on Medicaid. And then there's a fair number who are also on Medicare. So in this big, ugly bill, we're cutting $1 trillion in Medicaid. We're cutting $500 billion in Medicare. And so we are also cutting subsidies that make health insurance affordable for people, because some of the people at the dialysis clinics are paying with private insurance. But when those subsidies go away, they won't have the private insurance. And so it is a catastrophe in the making that is going to lead to the deaths of thousands of people in this country if this bill passes. 50,000+ people per year are scheduled or predicted or projected to lose their lives because they are not going to have access to health care in the richest country on earth. That is a shame.
Shame.
It's a shame. And anybody who votes for this bill should be ashamed of themselves.
That's right.
So I'm here, along with my colleagues, to be the voice for the least of these, for those who are hungry, and we can feed them. I'm not going to be one of those who doesn't feed them. For the sick who need our care, I'm not going to be one who turns them away from care. And for the strangers, we call them strangers, but really that's a biblical term. I'm talking about our immigrants who are in this community, who we can shut the door or we can open the door so that we can all prosper. I'm here to speak for them as well. And I thank you all for being here.
Hank Johnson. Thank you. Congresswoman Lucy McBath. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you. I'm Congresswoman Lucy McBath. I represent Georgia's 6th Congressional District, which is all of the suburbs of the Atlanta metropolitan area. And I do want to thank our chair, Congresswoman Yvette Clark. I want to thank our chair, Emerita. I want to thank the leadership of the Congressional Black Caucus. I want to thank the organizations that are joining us here tonight. Thank you for your steadfast commitment to standing up for democracy, for the people all over the country that we are actually fighting for tonight. I will tell you, I'm voting no on this bill tonight. And I'm voting no on this bill tonight because as a 2-time breast cancer survivor, I remember sitting in the office with all the other women like myself as we were waiting to see our surgeon, our doctor, as we were waiting for care to make sure that we would survive and we would still live. And I remember the discussions that we used to have, the years that we had about being able to pay for our care, pay for the surgery, pay for the pharmaceuticals that we needed to keep us alive. And I remember the discussions that I had with women who were on medication, who were afraid as to whether or not they were going to be able to pay for their care, to keep them alive. We talked about our families. We talked about our children. We talked about, are we going to be here to carry on and to take care of our families? So I'm here tonight because I understand that I had good health care insurance, and I've survived cancer twice. But I know there are so many women in this country, especially women of color, that if Medicaid is cut, if the financial resources are cut for their access to health care, they will not survive. They will have nowhere to turn. I'm here tonight to vote against this bill because I'm concerned about every woman in this country who has used Planned Parenthood as the only means of care, reproductive care, not just for abortion, but for their wellness check, for birth control, And they won't have access to that anymore. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to get their help? I am here tonight to vote no on this bill because I have asked over and over again in the state of Georgia to our governor why he won't feed our children during the summer when they're in summer camp. Why he refuses to feed our children, feed our babies, and I've never been able to get an answer. And now I'm even more afraid that they won't even be fed during the summer. They just won't have SNAP and these benefits at all. I'm here tonight to vote no on this bill because I'm so deeply and gravely concerned about what this means for the nation. We're talking about health care cuts. We're talking about public education cuts. We're talking about veterans cuts. We're talking about for those that have disabilities. We're talking about a whole gamut of cuts that will just completely rip those rugs from underneath the feet of so many people in this country every single day that are just struggling to get by. So I'm voting no tonight for those people who don't have a voice. I'm voting no tonight against this diabolical, unethical, immoral piece of legislation that will change democracy here in the United States for generations to come. I'm voting no on this piece of legislation because all of the people who have been in this building, who've been in this Capitol, who've been on this Hill long before I came, fought to undergird and support America. And I, doggone, if I'm going to let all the work that they've done go down in vain.
Thank you. Congressman Maxwell Waters, for whom are you?
Hello, everybody. Hello. All of my colleagues, the Black Caucus, for all of the work that we do every day. And even though we have a crisis right now, you're fighting even when others don't know that it is a crisis. You hear every day whether it's on education, whether it's on health, whether it's on health care, whether it's on what is the proposition today. Ladies and gentlemen, this just didn't happen. It happened because somebody made it happen. Who was it? The guy who did this. You know who it is. It's the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. You know that this unkind, cruel, low-down, dirty President of the United States has used his executive power, using his executive orders to change this country in ways that nobody ever thought could do. Our ancestors have fought very hard for us to come to the time when we could have halfway decent care. We come to the time where we was all dying from preventable diseases. I have come from a time and place where families didn't have any primary doctor. The only way that you saw a doctor or got to a hospital was if you broke an arm or broke a leg or you got hit by a car. There was no such thing as preventive medicine. Many folks have sacrificed. They have worked hard to get us to a place where we can have halfway decent care. We still are working to make sure it is 100%. But before we can get there, this cruel president has taken his power, understanding that once the people elect you, that you can use your executive power to do whatever. We can rein him in. And somehow we've been able to arrest him because he's a criminal. But the fact of the matter is, the President of the United States has a lot of power. And that executive power is being used now to make sure that he takes care of the in this country and give them the tax rates that they all want. You saw them at the inauguration, standing with him, proudly, saying, now we're in charge. And we're going to do whatever we need to do to make sure that all of this government money is not going to those people. Because those, who are they talking about? They're talking about us. They're talking about poor people. They're talking about people who work every day
who make minimum wages and low wages. They're talking about people, some of whom who vote for them in rural communities that don't even know who's undermining them. We know, and we fight. I'm mad as hell. And I want to tell you, it is not just about being here today. Of course, I'm not going to vote for the bill, but we got to be on the street. We've got to be fighting in the way that the civil rights people taught us to fight. We've got to organize. We've got to get out there. So young people are interested. We have got to help them to understand. When they understood what happened up in Minneapolis, Black Lives Matter came alive. They were on the streets of America. We need them on the streets now. And so we don't know what's going to happen tonight. We don't know when the rule is going to come up. We don't know whether the rule is going to pass. We know that there are some members, both on the Republican side for the most part. The Democrats are all together. We have a wonderful leader in Hakeem Jeffries who has kept the Democrats together in this Congress. And we all voted against this bill when it went through the House. It got to the Senate. They don't know which end is up. And now they've got some over there who have found out that their constituents are finding out that they have buyer's remorse. They didn't know when they voted for him that it meant them too. And so some of them are begging for us on this side to now bail them out. We need 4 votes, as Ms. Bailey has said, just 4 votes. But I want you to know we've got some scared, intimidated folks over there who's so worried about their primaries. Well, let me tell you about our primaries. Our primaries know when we're working for them.
That's right.
Our primaries know when we're fighting for them. And nobody with no big amount of money can take us out if we're doing the people's business.
That's right.
So we've got to do the people's business and depend on the people and help the people to understand and to educate the people about what this government is and what it's all about. I want to tell you, Trump is in office, had his co-president Elon Musk, and they got together and decided that the way to give that tax break was to get rid of so many employees doing all of this work that they don't need to do because the people they're doing it for don't deserve it anyway. Well, I want to tell you, I think they cheated in order to win in the first place.
Right. Talk about it.
And I want to tell you, I am not intimidated by anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere. And so it is because of the strength of our conviction that we're going to win in the final analysis.
That's right.
Even if we don't get this vote tonight, we're going to win because we're going to fight harder. We're going to help people to understand what has happened. And understanding what has happened when you didn't know that the president had this kind of power is going to give you power. And never again should we confront it. Be confronted with a president of the United States who's using the executive powers to do what this honored, low-down, dirty, cruel man is doing. And so we hope that there are enough 4 votes, as Ms. Lady said, we hope there are 4 votes who will finally get some strength and say, sorry, Mr. President, we just can't give it to you. But we don't know whether that's going to happen or not. And I know a lot of people are praying that that will happen. I'm going to try to pray. I'm going to really try. But in addition to that, I'm going to continue the fight. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm 86 years old.
Yes.
I want you to know I've been on the street in 8 protests from California all throughout Washington, D.C. And guess what? I got strength for 8 more, 12 more. I will never stop. As a matter of fact, I'm going to live till I'm about 110. Okay?
That's so good.
Come on. Nobody can stop you.
Come on here.
Nobody can stop you. And ladies and gentlemen, we hope they do the right thing up there.
Yes.
But we don't know. And if they don't, we will not stop fighting anyway. Thank you very much.
Congresswoman Maxine. Amen. Thank you. No, that's wonderful and good for me, for all the members. What we're going to do is hear from some young people, but we know members have busy schedules. If any of you have to leave, you have Vincent. You sure? Okay. And that's not nice because members are going to let the young people take a seat. Come on, y'all. Come on, you young people. That's what they said. They want to hear from you. All right.
I want y'all to talk. I'm not young.
We're also, folks, and we're streaming all over the country. People are watching this everywhere. There's a larger crowd watching than it may be here, and that's important. Now, Congresswoman has given the young staff permission to cuss on the Capitol grounds. Amen. All right. Well, so let's go. Let's start here since I'm on this side. We're also going to hear from Families USA and LDF. We appreciate them being here. Young people, we want to hear how this, while you're here, and how this personally affects you. Be sure to say your name and where you're from.
Hello everyone, my name is Caleb Paul. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm a rising sophomore at Yale University. I'm here today because I'm also serving in Congresswoman Lauren Underwood's office. I'm on the receiving end of countless phone calls from constituents worrying about everything that has going on, from older people worrying about their Medicare and Medicaid being cut off, to the younger people just worrying about other factors, single mothers. My mother is a single mother herself. Living under a single mother's house has been really intense. At certain times, we've had SNAP benefits, and I could not imagine living in a household where this would not be available to us. So I hope the Republicans, we need 4 votes. I hope 4 of us can be strong enough and condemn this administration and everything that's going on, because it's necessary. We're living in a very, very amazing time to continue being amazing.
Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan McGee. I'm from Los Angeles, California, specifically the 43rd District of the Congressional District under Congresswoman Maxine Waters. And I'm here today as a rising sophomore at Yale University, and I am a CCF intern as well. And we are living in a time where we cannot allow the administration here today impact us in the way that they are and taking vital programs away from the people of America. I personally have experience where my grandpa is on Medicare, and he is currently bed bound in a nursing facility in the middle of the valley in California. And we do not know what is going to happen to him after everything that has been going on with this administration, with the votes that have been happening, and everything in between the votes that have just been going on. So we need to mobilize and continue having spaces like this where we're able to talk about what is going on in America and how we can protect the lives of people everywhere, regardless of where they're from rural counties, from urban areas, and everything between. It's very important. That is why I'm here, listening to 2 constituents from all over the place that live in rural communities that are suffering from different places and different hospital conditions, medical conditions that are hurting them day in and day out. And we do not know what will happen to rural hospitals if they are gone. We do not know what's going to happen if SNAP and other benefits that are happening and impacting people across America are taken away. 17 million Americans are going to be at risk for several programs. We cannot let this happen. We need to continue fighting, and we need to make sure that we mobilize.
Good evening. I am Charles Ross Hoover. I am a member of the United States Student Association, as well as president of the UMass NAACP chapter. And I'm here today because, as a voice for students across the country, you can't cut Pell. You can't raise the price for Student Plus loans and Parent Plus loans. You can't privatize that. Because if you privatize that, it leaves us vulnerable to private lenders who are sharks, who will do anything they can just to have 30 years paying off student loans. And I'm here because education is the right. I believe education is the right for all. No matter where you come from, I'm here from Springfield, Massachusetts. And I didn't believe I would ever be here outside the Capitol, but I'm here because I'm a student of history, and today is the 64th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act being signed into law, and also the birthday of the late Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. So I think today is a day of history, a day of reckoning, and history will remember who those 4 Republicans are if they sign and say no to the big, beautiful, big, ugly bill. But if they go along with their party, history will remember them as well. And history will remember what Donald Trump is doing and has done for this country. Insurrection or fake election, fraudulent election. History will remember, and that's why I'm here.
Let me just say, since our brother mentioned Thurgood Marshall and the Civil Rights Act, today is also the 100th birthday of Medgar Evers. And today is also born on the same day, the 100th birthday of Patrice Lumumba. So this is a freedom fighter day. Amen.
Hi, my name is Chloe Parkson, and I am here from a small town in Alabama. I attend the University of Alabama. If you ask me why I'm here, I would say I'm here because somebody has to speak up, somebody has to advocate, somebody has to make a change. If we all go along with this idea of selfishness, of not looking out for the people that cannot speak up for themselves, who will help us? No matter what, 40% of Medicaid is children. If they can't sympathize with children, do you think they can sympathize with us? No, we have to advocate for ourselves as Black people, as minorities, and everybody else, not even just minorities. This bill will impact the entire nation. It's something that if it passes, you will tell the difference when you wake up the next morning.
That's right.
So make sure that you help to be the change, to be the positive impact, and not the negative.
Hello, my name is Joseph Wool. I'm from North Las Vegas, Nevada, graduate of the University of Las Vegas. I'm a fellow skill concern. I'm going to work in Stoke in the world. And we come here in earnest efforts to advocate on behalf, not just of UCF, but of our country. I'd be remiss if I were to go into I'd be remiss if I were to go into this information without properly talking about my personal story. I am the son of Ethiopian immigrants who immigrated to Las Vegas in the early 1990s for the hope of a better life. Throughout my uprising and my upbringing, my parents went through great struggle to bring me and my sister up in a way that was pursuant to the American dream. They brought us in the world and the city community that was multicultural in nature and had all of the things that I believe in American democracy society should have. Today, in this bill, Progressive Republicans in this administration look to undo and undermine the very principles that constitute the community that I love so much. Democracy does die in darkness. We believe that everyone should be Congress representatives engaging within their government and their institutions to ensure that their voices are properly heard for the forthcoming vote. The vote tomorrow will be more than just a political reconciliation bill. It will be a referendum on the principles that constitute our American community. To the mother who is reliant upon food stamps to feed her children, to the young woman in Las Vegas who's reliant upon medicating her and her grandmother, to the young Ethiopian American boy who to this day still looks to America and questions what the world has to offer. We're looking at this bill, at this forthcoming vote, as a vote for our democracy and the integrity of the United States. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you guys for being here. My name is Laura Mason. I am from Baltimore, Maryland. I attend the lovely Morgan State University. And mine is also a personal anecdote. Growing up, my family relied on Section 8. We relied on SNAP. A lot of the fresh produce I had was because of the benefits that we received from SNAP. But Baltimore is one of the most, honestly, one of the most poverty-stricken cities. It's a majority Black city. We suffer from food deserts. I live in a food desert now, even just being on Morgan State University's campus. So I've seen what lack of food access does, not only to students, but to families, to individuals. And I've experienced it. Just moving along in my story, I moved out of my house at 16. At 16, you don't know anything. I know I didn't know anything. So that meant that in order to receive health care, I had to rely on Medicaid, and I still do. to this day. So I am one of the people who will be impacted by this bill in the event that it goes through. And because I was on SNAP, because I received free lunch, those are the reasons why I was able to attend college. I got fee waivers because I was able to rely on SNAP benefits. And I was able to attend Morgan State University on a full ride because I had the resources that I needed in order to obtain an education. I know a lot of students, especially a lot of young Black children from Baltimore, don't get that opportunity. So I'm here to advocate. I would say I'm here to advocate not only for myself, but for my community, for my sisters and brothers, for the people who were going through it just like me and didn't speak up, for my immigrant sisters and brothers, for my people who have experienced housing insecurity like I have. I'm here for everyone, and I'm proud to be. This is what we're here for. Good evening, everybody. My name is Omeba, fellow CBC of intern, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge how privileged and honored I am to be able to share my story amongst my peers of how impactful this bill would be on all of our lives. Just to share a little bit about me, my family moved here in 2004 as refugees from South Sudan. It was Medicaid, it was Medicare.
Get established in this country. It gave us peace of mind, knowing that we had food to eat, knowing that we had our essential services taken care of, that we could engage in our education. It was SNAP benefits that supported me through college, knowing that I could focus on classes, that I could focus on my education, and not worry about what I had to eat at the end of the day. I want my story and my testimony to be one that is representative of many across the United States who without this support, they wouldn't be able to establish themselves in a new country. Education has been the great equalizer in our society. Our ancestors have fought long and hard for our educational rights. We're all proud to be here today, to be pursuing our education so that we may fight for the generation that follows and amongst our peers as well. So I would just be remiss to say that, I'm not proud and honored to be here, and just thank you for letting me share my story.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roland Rowe, and I'm from Woodfield, Mississippi. I also attend Southern University of Agriculture and College, HBCU in Louisiana. Being from Mississippi, I am a CBC intern and Representative Benton Thompson District, which is Mississippi's 2nd Congressional District. It's one of the poorest congressional districts inside of the United States. We have a bunch of residents who rely on Medicaid and Medicare. As a student who attends at HBCU, as a student who receives a Pell Grant, as a student who is a part of the United States Army, and who just hit 5 years choosing to serve in a country that he believes in, a bunch of Black veterans will be affected by this bill. This bill would now require students to take 15 credit hours to receive full Pell Grants. And we know a bunch of students cannot take 15 credit hours because they have to take care of their aunties, their grandmothers, their mothers, their fathers. Have Republicans lost all human decency? All human decency in all factors.
Anthony Wright of Families USA. Would you introduce yourself now?
No, thank you. I am so privileged to be amongst these great young emerging leaders as well as those. That's amazing. Give them applause. As well as with the heroes from the Congressional Back Caucus earlier, folks that I have looked up to for my career. My name is Anthony Wright. I'm the Executive Director of Families USA, the longtime national healthcare consumer advocacy organization. Originally from the Bronx, New York. I will tell my own story. I'll tell the Families USA story of working for over 40 years on the cause of trying to get everybody the access to the care and coverage that they need, whether it's through Medicaid, the Child Health Insurance Program, and yes, the seminal righteous fight for the Affordable Care Act. And that is a little bit of what we're fighting about now, because the bill that we're talking about, the big bad betrayal of a bill, is a bill that would undo health coverage more than any other bill or piece of legislation in the history of the country. It is, if the Affordable Care Act was the biggest step forward, Medicaid and Medicare Act, and then the Affordable Care Act, this is the biggest withdrawal of coverage. And so why I'm here to support our good friends from the Congressional Black Caucus and other representatives who are voting no on this bill because of the harm it will do to coverage, to costs, to care, and to community. In terms of coverage, 17 million Americans will be pushed or priced out of coverage, both public and private coverage, both Medicaid and Marketplace. From things like additional paperwork burdens, having to reapply every year, to work reporting requirements, to just the increasing costs of coverage. The increased costs will be felt by millions more, whether it's increased premiums that people will start to face this fall, to increase cost sharing for people on Medicaid, to increase premiums because as more people fall off the coverage, then the rest of the people are in a smaller and sicker pool, which means premiums go up. And then the things that cut on care, which is the direct attacks on cuts on the way that states finance their Medicaid programs, things called provider taxes or state-directed payments. But that means less money for the hospital or the clinics near you, and especially for those places where Medicaid is the #1 budget line item, the primary payer, nursing homes, maternity wards, and rural hospitals in particular. And then finally, community. This bill specifically attacks certain communities, whether it's women and their reproductive health, the defunding Planned Parenthood, whether it's specific legal immigrants who are here, refugees, asylum seekers, that are specifically targeted in this bill, and just in general. When you cut, one of those studies my organization did was that the comparison of states that expanded Medicaid to states that didn't, that actually has a huge impact on maternal mortality for everybody, but especially for communities of color. And so this bill has dramatic cascading effects, not just on the people who will lose their coverage, not just on the people who will see their coverage, their costs rise, but not just everybody on Medicaid, all 80 million Americans, but on literally everybody and the healthcare system that we all depend on. And that's why it's so essential that four Republican members see the light and vote no tonight. And if they don't, then we need to make sure that every time those consequences happen over the next few months and next few years, they recognize that it's because of this vote that people lost their coverage, people saw their costs rise, people saw their services scale back, and even some key institutions like hospitals and clinics close. So please vote no to everybody in there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony. We're going to hear from one more young person, one more youth. And your brother mentioned Thurgood Marshall's birthday. This is the organization that he led, the Legal Defense Fund. Demetria McClain, give her a round of applause.
I am so honored to be here with these young people. Give a hand again. It is auspicious that we are here on Thurgood Marshall's birthday. I am Demetria McClain, Director of Policy at the Legal Defense Fund. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, okay? We are the premier racial justice legal organization in this country, started by Thurgood Marshall 85 years ago this year. And so what we do at LDF is that we fight for the humanity and the dignity of Black communities. And let me tell you something, this bill is not about the humanity or dignity of Black communities or other communities, as far as I'm concerned. And let me just tell you a little bit about what we do. A lot of our work is in the South. We do a lot of work in the South. Glad to hear people from Louisiana, Mississippi. And in this work that we do, either through litigation, research, organizing, policy advocacy, we meet a lot of people. One of the things that we're working on right now has to do with water equity, right? Food, shelter, water. These are the basics. We're not talking about thriving. We're just talking about surviving. And so we're working with families, elderly families in the South, right? Families with disabilities in the South. Families with children in the South who do not have clean water, or the bills are so high that they can't keep the roof over their heads, because we all know what? That the rent is too what? Damn high. So we're talking about survival issues here, okay? We're talking about health. We're talking about taking food out of these grandparents who are on Medicare and Medicaid, who need the SNAP to take care of the grandchild, who's in the Title I school. My children were in the Title I school. And let me tell you something. Every Friday, the nonprofits would line up to bring boxes of food, and those families were in line. But guess what? There are not enough churches and nonprofits to get us out of this at this moment. Okay?
That's right.
So this bill, I spent all morning, all day, walking up and down Rayburn Building, the Cannon Building, as well as Longworth, trying to convince people to vote no, because this bill is not about humanity or dignity. So what can you do? You can call 202-224-3121 and say vote no.
Demetria McCain of LDF, give her a round of applause. Let's give all these young people a round of applause. We've got one more speaker here from Win with Black Men. How is this affecting Black men? This is the 30th anniversary of the Million Man March. And it seems as though we've gone backwards. Our brother Khalil will talk to us about how this legislation affects Black men. Khalil Thompson, give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much. I am honored to be in such an esteemed audience here. I'm young at heart, with a few gray hairs on my head. But no, excited to be here with you all here this evening. I have an amazing 8-year-old CEO who is home, hopefully almost on her way to sleep. But I am worried about what her future is going to be. Not only does she have less rights than her mother had today, not only is she concerned about her classmates, whether or not ICE is going to come into her school or take away her teachers or anyone that she may know, but every single day, and this bill is the encapsulation of that, worried about that the America that she wants to live in is no longer going to be that one of dreams that she can achieve. And so I, as her dad, want to make sure that we can fight every single day. So that's why we at Women with Black Men and partnering with other organizations and young leaders that are here today and our CBC members in a nonpartisan way are coming out and saying we have to do every single thing that we can. We've been citing a study that came out in 2013 that says 70% of Black fathers participate in their child's lives either in changing a diaper, bathing, or feeding on a daily basis. While they may not live in the home, that debunks the myth that they're not a part of their child's life in a daily, consistent basis. 2.5 million of them, as opposed to 1.7 million of them, are actively participating in an after-school activity. And so we want to make sure that brothers know that this isn't just about an amorphous issue that you're hearing about a bill in DC that's going to vote. This is going to impact your lives. This is a disinvestment in our community. All of the things that we've talked about tonight, whether it's Head Start, whether it's SNAP benefits, whether it's Pell Grants, that's an investment in our communities for the long run. This bill is a disinvestment in taking away from our communities. And so we want to make sure that you know that there are 4 or 5 members of Congress that we are actively trying to make sure they hear our voices, that they vote no on this bill. We know we have a majority of Democrats and those that believe in the ideals that we believe in our community that are going to vote no on this bill. But we need to make sure that we press harder over the next 24 hours. We know members are not leaving tonight, so we know they're staying. We know they were out here with us earlier. They're going back to do the work. We want to continue to put that pressure on. I have 2 parents who are young at heart, but their knees creak like me when they get up these days. And so I want to make sure that they have the benefits that are available to them. I have a brother and a sister who want to make sure, just like me, and for every single family, that they can have access to affordable health care. And so this fight isn't just for us or just for our communities. I think many of us that are either watching this online or hearing us right now, this isn't just a Black or brown issue. This is an American issue. We need you to understand that this disinvestment is going to drastically hurt all Americans, not just Black and brown Americans, not just Black men, not just Black sisters, not just our brown sisters or brown brothers and sisters. This is going to hurt America as a large disinvestment. So I'm excited that we got this together in an hour and a half this afternoon and pulled this off. But we're going to continue this fight. I know our fellow brethren and sisters, my big sister Angela Rye over at State of the People, and others who've been leading the marathon that is still going on right now. I think they're talking, they're making calls. Dom over at the NAACP, they did a power hour earlier this afternoon, I think around 3 o'clock, and had 250 volunteers on the line making phone calls, and other organizations just as well are leading this fight. So I'm excited for what this is going to be. I hope we won't be disappointed at the end, but we just got to convince 4 people to vote no.
All right. Time for Women Black Men, and to close us out, the Executive Director of the CBC is going to come and give us a state of play where things are right now, where we are in the process. Let's give Vince Evans a round of applause. Vince Evans for all the hard work that he does pulling us together and telling us what to do and all of that.
Y'all give it up for the Congressional Black Caucus.
There we go.
And the chairwoman who is still here, Yvette Clark, is still on the ball. She's literally sitting on the ball. So I just want to say on behalf of our 62 members of the CBC, earlier this week, we saw the
CBC members in the Senate, four of them, two bad brothers and two bad sisters. They held the line. Let's give it up for them. And now our other 57 members are going to fight until as long as this fight lasts. So just so we know as we close out, you know, the vote in the House to move to what they call the rule has been open for hours. As we sit here right now, we are about 24 minutes out from this vote being open, being the longest open vote in the history of the House. And that's because of the pressure that y'all are applying. They can't get the vote. The vote is still open. And so we don't care if it stay open for another couple of days. Keep it open. The House Freedom Caucus has just announced they don't want to vote tonight. That's because of the pressure of you, the young people, these members. So we don't, as Khalil said, know. What we know right now is the dome light is on. The people of ill will are inside the building trying to make this the biggest cut to SNAP in the history of the country. We know that the people of ill will are inside the building trying to make this the largest cut to Medicaid in the history of the country. We know that the ill will people are inside of the building trying to make this the largest transfer of wealth in the history of the country. We know the people of ill will are inside the building trying to add $4 trillion to the debt. And the people of goodwill are like Yvette Clark sitting on the wall. The people of goodwill like Dr. Chavis are sitting here on the wall. We know the people of goodwill like the CBCF interns are sitting on the wall. The people of goodwill like LDF are sitting here on the wall. The people of goodwill like our friends from Protect Medicaid are sitting on the wall. And we will sit on this wall for the next hour, the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, so long as we have to, because this fight is important. There are people who are literally tonight around the country counting on the people that are here. So y'all stay up, go home, get your rest, don't go to sleep. As I have said in recent weeks, black people in America need to sleep in shifts.
That's right.
When Yvette Clark is asleep, her ED is up. When I'm asleep, Yvette Clark is up. Because the people of ill will, they seem to never sleep. So the people of goodwill have got to be up, sleeping in shifts and making certain that we got each other's back. Y'all stay with us. The Congressional Black Caucus will continue to fight. Madam Chair, come on up here. The sister from Brooklyn, and take us home. Brooklyn is in the house.
Let me thank all of the press that has come out tonight. We wanted to continue what we started early this morning. We knew that it was important that our people see us out here fighting.
That's right.
Fighting. And this fight will be on a continuum. Because as my ED has said, when we're asleep, they're up working. And we can't sleep until we get the victory. And so tonight is just the beginning or the continuum of the struggle that we have had as a people to make sure that we liberate, lift up, and move our people forward. This wealth transfer will only last as long as we allow it to.
That's right.
So let us get our game face on. Let us be clear, as Auntie Maxine said, we got these streets. Let us get out here, let's educate, let's inform, and let's make sure that in the midterm election, these people remember just what they did to people of goodwill. God bless you. God keep you. Young people, y'all making it happen. I'm so proud of you. And we will continue. This is a movement, not a moment.
Sorry, folks. Capitol Congressional Black Caucus called this. You should be able to hear me. Yeah, you should be able to hear me, guys. Yeah, you should be able to hear me. I got my meters. Thank you very much. All right. So again, so the Congressional Black Caucus has concluded this emergency rally here at the United States Capitol. As we said, since Representative Lauren Underwood told us, the Republicans have held the vote open since 1:30. Right now, it is 9:10. They're going on 8 hours holding this vote early. They do not have the votes necessary. As the CBC said, all they need are 4 Republicans. Now, understand, the House passed a bill that went to the Senate. The Senate passed their own bill. And so what this vote is on the Senate bill. So if this vote fails, that means that what the House then may have to do is make their own adjustments, pass another bill. If that bill differs from the Senate, has to go back to the Senate. And then if they don't change the House bill and vote, then it moves forward. And what Republicans are doing are using the reconciliation process. The reconciliation process is a very specific process. That's how the Affordable Care Act was passed. This requires not 60 votes in the Senate, but 51 votes, a simple majority. And so that's why the Senate parliamentarian ruled against a number of provisions in the bill, because he did not comply with the reconciliation process. And so that's what's going on right now. And so Democrats are trying to put as much pressure on those 35 vulnerable Republicans who are going to be in competitive seats in 2026. You have these budget hawks on the House, the Freedom Caucus. They actually don't like the Senate bill because they say it's not tough enough. And so this battle is going on, the negotiations, Speaker Mike Johnson, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, to trying to get these Republicans in line. They cannot afford. Right now, there are 2 hardcore Republicans on the House who said they will not vote for the Senate bill. So that means they really need 2 more votes to scuttle this particular bill. And so we're going to continue this coverage. We'll see if they stick around tomorrow. If they stick around, a lot of them want to go back home for July 4th. And so we'll be covering this. We'll be live tomorrow on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I'll be in New Orleans at Essence Fest, but we will be live with this particular show. So, folks, that's it for us right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Again, let me thank our panel, Scott, Rebecca, as well as Matt. Let me thank Jasmine Simpkins, as well as Candace Kelly, for their coverage of the Diddy trial. Folks, don't forget it. This is the work that we do right here. I mean, listen, we were in the studio. I got the text message at 6 p.m. at 5:56 that they were doing this here. And so we had to completely recalibrate. We had to scurry, grab a go pack, and race out here to cover this. And so this is why when I talk about the money that you contribute to our show, when you give your donations, is to cover stuff like this here. So we want you to support the work that we do. And I just give you a perfect example. Dylan, come here. And so again, here's a perfect example. And so Dylan here has our iPhone here. This is the LU Smart app. Henry, go ahead and take this shot. Put the camera on me. Put it on me. And so this is a perfect example, y'all. We talk about your support. This app costs us $300 a month. It allows for us to be able to utilize an iPhone to be able to broadcast. When I went to y'all and I said, hey, we want to get this, 65 donors that night contributed enough for us to be able to pay for this app. And so again, that app is $300 a month. Okay, look at the numbers. That's $3,600 a year. And so the live unit we're utilizing right now, that's $20,000. And so understand, this stuff actually costs money. And so your donations are important. We don't have millionaires and billionaires supporting us. These ad agents are not supporting us as well. And so when you give, it absolutely goes to the work that we do, bringing you the news and information. Let me explain something to y'all. ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, none of these networks, CNN, MSNBC, none of them were out here. None of them went out here. They were not out here. And so your support of our work is critical. And so please join our Brain and Funk fan club. You want to contribute via Cash App, use a Stripe QR code. You see it right here on your screen. Go Roland Martin Unfiltered or BlackStarNetwork.com to get the link. You want to send a check and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Send it to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003-7-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Of course, be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Of course, you can get the audio version on Audible. Understand that when you buy the book, that the resources that comes right back into the show. And so we appreciate that. Also, be sure to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag. And hey, if you bought our swag, do me a favor. What I want you to do is, I want you to, if you bought it, you have not gotten it, send us an email so we can help make sure your order gets processed. And so again, RolandMartin.creator-spring.com for the gear. Of course, if you want to, again, shop our Black-owned networks, go to shopblackstarnetwork.com, shopblackstarnetwork.com. And then what I want you to then do is I want you to then go to download the app Fanbase. To download the app Fanbase, and if you want to invest in Fanbase, if you want to contribute to Fanbase, please do so as well. And if you want to invest, go to startengine.com/Fanbase. Folks, that's it. I will see y'all tomorrow from New Orleans right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla from the U.S. Capitol.